Hello, we are recording this session, which means your sound, your video, your screen may be shared with the public. Just want you to know. Okay, so having said this email, James has chosen this email address, and this is his new domain. And that is, he's sending me an email saying, did it work, subject line, and the body. Now, click here to show some details, and you will see something very fancy. And this is a result of SPF record and DKIM records. It is authoritatively telling me that the mailing company that mails this email is irideaharley.com. How? Because of SPF record. SPF record basically tells everybody on the planet that whenever a company employee from the irideharley.com company sends out an email, they are supposed to be by policy authorized to use only the Zoho service. And therefore, my SPF record should show something like, what does it show? SPF, Zoho, Zoho. It should show something like this. It's coming up, right? So the example is coming up, and it should show pretty much like this line. Everybody's SPF record should be like this if you're using Zoho Mail. If you're using Google Mail, it will be slightly different, but a variation of the same concept. And it basically advertises the whole world that, if somebody of my company, irideaharley.com, is sending an email out, they should be sending from zoho.com. And if somebody else is using some other box, drop it in the spam. That's the idea of the SPF record.
So Nilesh,
yes,
I didn't quite see what the p-value was on the DKIM text record. Can you go back?
So we are right now talking about SPF, Standard Policy Framework Record. We will now talk about DKIM as well. Just a minute. And this other value here is signed by. This is signed by irideaharley.com. This is a digital signature put in place to sign the email sending server through the DKIM system. And that signature we generated for James, and that looked kind of sort of like this, right? You saw that on James' computer. It has a DKIM, it has a RSA signature fingerprint, and the p-value all the way down. This is the key itself. This is the public key. And we are publishing this public key in form of a TXT record against roadking._domain key dot whatever that .com that you have, right? And so that's what we chose as a selector. So this roadking is a selector, and ._domain key is the domain key specification for this domain sdf.sdf.com. And then the value is line number 1. That's the public key. And that is published in your DNS records for that domain. So let's go see that terminal. Command line opening up, slightly bigger font. And we'll go dig. And then we'd say roadking._domain key .irideaharley.com, and then give me the TXT record for that. What do I get? Same thing. Exactly what I expect is this DKIM public signature. And this basically translates to the signed by. So emails coming out from this company called irideaharley.com are signed by the DKIM certificate. That's what these two flags indicate. Is the mailed by means sender policy framework. Signed by is DKIM. So these are the two things that I want you to know, that this is not super critical. These are evolving technologies, but most big companies like Gmail, Hotmail, AOL, public Yahoo Mail, or some others, like I don't know. Lots of companies provide mailboxes for free. That's where everybody gets their email servers. Most of them consumer based. So they are generally collectively known as the internet service providers, although they don't actually provide internet. But that's what the convention is to call them, ISPs. They used to provide internet like in AOL timeframe and MSN dial-up internet timeframe. But that's where the name ISP comes from. But they basically are today mailbox providers. They provide mailboxes to people, consumers, and they don't want spam. They want good email. They want to filter bad email. So this is a selector signal. It's a very good selector signal that tells, my email, if it is not mailed by me, ignore it. If it is not signed by me, look at it with a suspicion. So that's the idea. So you saw this email. Let's go check the other email, which is test. Travis says, it's Friday. Okay. What about mailed by Pantagio.us? Nice. And signed by his company. So, he's sending emails out from his servers, which also happen to be, by the way, Zoho.com. And everybody seems to have chosen Zoho, which is fine. And so, by the way, I have never used Zoho. I'm just telling you, honestly. It did not exist that time when I started it, and then it came along, but I never bothered because I was in Google, and that's a good service. So I never bothered to look, but I knew that this is there. So your team is probably the first one that is actually using Zoho, and it seems to be working okay. Some people occasionally complain about Zoho, that Zoho is not effective in handling spam, but I'll let you decide that. So Dig. And now in case of Travis, what he has done is chosen a different selector called Bravo. That's his choice, _ domain key dot pan. What's the domain name? Pantagio.
Pantagio, yeah.
And then his TXT record should show us a DKIM signature. It doesn't show.
Yeah, get rid of the second A.
Oh, okay. Panatage. Okay, pan. There we go. It shows up. Similarly, we'll now look at a quick look at the SPF records. So SPF doesn't have this domain key business. So we just go straight to the front, our top level of domain. And then there you find SPF entry. Now here is the value, which is, I think, common to all of us, except me, because I'm not on Zoho. So let's go see Cloud Genius value. And it shows something different. So let's go compare that. And you will see that my value is this, the SPF value, and it is slightly different than your value. So let's compare contrast quickly. And so here is my value, and what is your value? And the differences. So the differences are very, very simple. Let's go full screen and look at what this means. So here I am saying in line number, let me break into parts. So I'm going to break it into multi-line. Sorry. Not like this. I should break like this. And then this segment. And I should break this like this and this segment. Now let's compare. What? Compare line 6 and 7 together on one hand and line number 13 on the other hand. The idea in 6 and 7 is that I am using two services, not just Google, not just line number 6, but also Mailgun. This Mailgun thing is a different service provider that I use to send out those password reset emails, right? You sometimes receive emails from my company saying, team at something, or my password forgot, lost password emails. So those emails come, like, I must have received some notification like that saying, one of you guys, for reset your password or something like that. There is an email right here. So here's an email notification saying somebody from this person changed his or her password. And so it is coming from a person called team. And the sender policy is mailed by mail.cloudgenie.us. So slightly different entity. Signed by Cloud Genius, but mailed by a slightly different box. So that box is the Mailgun machine. Mailgun is a service provider that handles SMTP mail services, mailgun.org or .com. And there I have, you can actually see these emails going out to you guys as I will show you what I, in the logs, you will see those messages going out to you in the recent history. I will go check some logs right now, and you can see that the recent logs indicate that Carrie Gaiman at gmail.com clicked on lost password with this key. And she must have received a lost password email, because prior to that, Carrie opened an email. And prior to that, Carrie was delivered an email from Postmaster Email Cloud Genius. So those emails are generated by the website. These are automated, generated through the backend. And that is what line number 7 is doing, this line. Now, so that's the two services I use. One for the person sending emails is line number 6. And when a machine sends an email, I use line number 7. For you, you don't have a machine sending emails quite yet, but you have a person sending email in your company, and you're defining line number 13 for that. If you have more machines set to do some email marketing, for example, and you can say that I want to run email marketing from constantcontact.com, you can add a record like that. You have to actually verify with the company as to what is the record value that they want you to put. And then you can add a company entry like that. So this is going to be my marketing, email marketing. This is going to be my notifications. And this is going to be people sending emails. And in here, in your case, it is just people in your company sending emails. So that's the idea behind SPF record. You can indicate and scope out who, or rather, which boxes, which services are authorized by policy to send emails out on behalf of the domain we are talking about, the domain in question. Now, what's the difference in line number 10 and 16? That's the thing I want to discuss very, very carefully. So there are 4 flags available in that line 10 versus line 16. There is a very subtle difference. You will notice it. You can notice that right now, actually, by looking at the minus sign versus a tilde sign. A very, very subtle difference. And so the differences are actually, if I remember from memory, there are 4 values. One of them is this value, and this value, one is this value, and there's this value. So these 4 values are kind of indicative of different things. This is, I think, let me not assume or speak from memory, but I'll do a quick search on SPF equal, plus sign, minus sign, and tilde. So let's go search and it will come up. Sender policy framework. Yeah, sun protection factor. Okay, where are the values? It basically enforces discipline as to how strict or strong you want. I think I must have an entry in my website somewhere about this. I'll look it up. It should be written there in somewhere on the website about SPF.
Yeah, it was in the middle there. Go back to Wikipedia.
Here? Oh, sorry, Wikipedia. Okay, here.
Yeah, I think you had
There it is. Yeah, qualifiers. So
Yeah.
these qualifiers say plus. Plus is basically a pass result. No matter what, no matter who sends, or no matter which machine, which box, which service sends an email, assume it is okay. It's a pass. Give it a pass. Even if it fails, pass. That's a plus sign. Don't use it. It's a bad thing unless you're testing something. And so it's a plus sign is a pass, forcing a pass. Even if it is bad, treat it as good. That's your policy, your company policy. This question mark is the second one here, is for neutral. Neutral as in, I don't care. I don't have a policy. Or I don't care whether you mark it as spam or you mark it as a good email, but I don't have a policy. That's a statement. That's a policy choice, but nobody actually uses this choice. Neutral is very, very rarely used. I don't see any use for that, but it's there. Plus has a use of testing. Question has no use, according to me. There may be some cases that I cannot think of, but it basically means no policy. Minus is a very, very strict policy. And then tilde is kind of soft fail. So it is permissive policy. And this is good to start with. That's why Zoho and everybody and these guys will suggest that you use a tilde, because it is beginning of your domain and your email journey, or your domain's email usage patterns are evolving. It's a new domain. So you go with a tilde. Once you know for sure that you're not going to use anything other than these guys, these two that I have for me, I have made sure that I'm not allowing anybody to send anything else whatsoever. I can force discipline and say minus ALL, like number 9 says that. Dash ALL, minus ALL. It means anything else, just no matter how good it looks, you mark it as spam. Because I'm not sending it. So if anybody else is pretending to send you an email that pretends to be coming from Cloud Genius, drop it into spam box. That's the training I'm providing to AOL, Hotmail, and Outlook.com, and Gmail, and everybody else. All the people who receive emails, can receive emails. I'm just telling them, I am very strict. I can send only from line 6 and 7 and nowhere else. And so drop everything else. That's the policy that I'm setting. So these 4 values that I discussed, I think are clear. Any questions are welcome. We'll change topics soon. Any questions?
I was a little bit on the DKIM stuff.
Okay.
How you generated that code that needed to go into the value?
I see. So let me show you how I generate the code. And you probably saw one screenshot of the other screen on James' computer. Let me show it in Google side. So I'm going to sign in there, and once I signed on, I should be able to show you exactly what I'm talking about, the DKIM generation. So for every selector, like in case of James, he chose RoadKing. And so for that RoadKing selector that you select, then you append it with a dot underscore domain key, followed by a dot, and then whatever your domain is. And that's the selector you have to select in this portion. So you get to choose what you have. So like, Travis has selected Bravo, and I have, very simply selected Google. So you will see that. And so somewhere here in the domain section, app section, it is growing so much, it has grown big. So I had to go and hunt for it. I think it is in Gmail, and then authenticating email, there it is. And then you have to select a selector. So I have to go select the Cloud Genius domain, and there I am authenticating email, and my domain txt record selector is Google _ domain key, and my value was generated by the service. I can generate a new record if I like, but then I have to go and set up that record in my DNS and come back here to Google and tell them to verify that I am indeed putting that record in there. So you have to come and verify with Google. So Google knows, because Google keeps the private key, this is the public key. And so this public key has to go to the DNS entry in my DNS zone file. And then I have to come back to Google and say, hey, go verify. And once Google verifies, it will show you this green thing saying authenticating email. So I have a bunch of other domains like cloudgenius.co, and I seem to authenticate from that. For the other domain, BA Cloud Genius, I am not authenticating. And for this domain, which is the cloud emoji, I don't even have bothered to create a record. So here I can generate a new record and decide that I want to select a selector. So I can choose that selector bit length to be 2048, and prefix I can select here something like cloud. This is my selector, and then I generate. So this is how you generate a new DKIM record for a new domain, which is the cloud.emoji domain that I talked about last time. And then it has this selector, and this TXT record needs to be created with my DNS control panel for the zone for that domain with this signature. And so I will need to do that. How will I do that? I'll go to my domain control panel, which happens to be in Cloudflare, and there I log in. And once I log in, I should be able to find it. What do I find in my, where is that? Here, let me log in here first. So I am logging in, and then I find my domain called cloud.ws, that one. And in there, I will go and look for its DNS control panel. And there I'll create a new TXT record, by the way. And I will give it a selector called cloud _domain key. and then I had to provide the content. So I paste my key from there and then save. So now I have a new selector called cloud. Sorry, I have to add the record also. So I'll go short 2-minute TTL and 2-minute. Come on. No, this screen expanded doesn't work for 2-minute for some reason. And then I had to add a record. Now the record exists. So this new TXT record showed up with a cloud selector and a DKIM value for 2-minute TTL value showed up. I can now go back to Google and say, you know what, go verify. But before I do that, I want to actually verify myself. How do I do that? So I say dig cloud dot underscore domain key dot, and then I have to type the cloud symbol emoji in its Punycode format, which I have no idea. So I'll go and copy. And so it is this. So what is that thing called? Let me go cheat and find out what is this thing. Let's go copy from here. How about that? Yeah, copy. And so that's a good cheat. And we'll paste it right there, maybe like that. And there should not be any space in there. And I think this will fail, by the way. So I'm going to check my TXT record. This I think expects Punycode and not the emoji. So this is likely to fail. And it did. I am expecting to have the Punycode here, not Unicode, but Punycode. Emojis are Unicode, by the way. I think I mentioned that, punycoder.com. I don't know how to pronounce this Punycode business, but I know that its spelling is Puny. And so I am going to convert this Puny into Punycode, the Unicode symbols into Punycode. So I got this now. I'm going to get that, put that back in line here, and remove that Unicode cloud, and put in the Punycode in place with a dot in between. And now check the TXT record. I got the signature. Now I have the signature in place. I'll go back to my Google company and tell them, you know what? Yeah, go and start authenticating. Click. And so it says, I am authenticating. Is it? Yes, there it is. It says green. So that's the idea behind selecting a selector, choosing one, and then generating a key pair. The company that is providing you email server will keep the private key. They give you the public key that looks like this. You take the key, put it in your DNS control panel like I just did here in my zone file. That looks like this in the value here. I just pasted, and then I went back to check my dig command like this, and then I am happy about it. So I go and verify with Google, and Google says, yes, you are authenticating your email correctly. That means I can now send out emails from the emoji domain using Google Boxes, and it will be considered signed email, assigned by me. Yes.
So Zoho will have a public key generator, a DKIM generator like that somewhere?
Yeah, Zoho has it. Yeah. I think you were not there, Mark, when we were discussing on James's screen. James was able to select a DKIM selector. If you follow through the steps of setting up the email, like you already did halfway through, you just finish through that, you will have come up with SPF, come up with DKIM, and then it will follow up with the ID of verification, just like I showed you. And it will start authenticating your email. It will making sure that your email is considered as appropriate and not spam, and all that thing will automatically happen.
Yeah, I missed the generator, so it must be.
No worries. I showed you one example of generator. Zoho also has one. Office 365 also has one. They were late to the game. They did not have it. These technologies are evolving, fresh, very new. And as a consequence of these technologies, there is an aggregate report that you need to get for your entire company. Like you have thousands of employees, like I have one or maybe two that actually use actively this email. But I have another service that actually aggregates reports coming from all these big internet service providers. And what they do is tell me who or how many times the policy is getting violated. So that aggregation is another type of record. And I'm trying to remember what that thing is called. So I think it is called SPF. I think I should have mentioned in the website. I should just go to the website. That's easier. Trying to remember everything is hard. Cloud technologies should show me that. DKIM. Where is that? Yeah, SPF, DKIM. Huh. Okay, SPF, DKIM, DNS, record verification. DMARC. The thing is called DMARC. So that's a new type of record, DMARC. And what this does is aggregates. So instead of me describing it, I'll just show it to you an example. So it's also another free service from a company called DMARCian. And I'm going to log in there to show you. That will immediately make sense. So here we go. Coming in and logging in and enter. And just show me my domain results. How many people in my company have been sending out emails, and how many of them are actually landing in the right box and considered good versus spam. So here are two domains, and I have a very, very strict policy on the other domain that I don't tend to use. And so that is, if you have a DMARC policy of reject, it actually not even bothers to go in the spam folder. It just gets rejected on the way to the destination. And you show that there are two domains that show my SPF state and my DMARC state. DKIM state. Both of these domains show correct values for SPF and DKIM. And if there are issues that pop up, then this green color here will become red. You can also get some aggregate reports in terms of some of these 7-day summary. I think I'm not paying them, so they don't store too much history. They just show me 7-day summary because I'm using the free services. But if there is a threat to my domain where somebody else is trying to pretend to be me and sending out emails, then in that case, yeah, it's all showing nice and green, which is a good sign. But if there are complaints, it will get captured. It is showing complete 100%, no issues. My emails are being sent for this domain from Google company, and there are 12 messages sent and 100% compliant with SPF and DKIM. So it's an aggregate report on what all these companies like Hotmail, Google, Yahoo, and all the other big companies that receive emails think about mail coming from me, or rather my company, I should say. And so that's how I'm getting a view of what's going on in my organization, who's sending emails, and it's an aggregate report on. It's a very small one, but it's a good report. Same thing with the other domain. I use another company like Mailgun, but this called Elastic Email, which sends out email, and that also is showing 100% SPF, 100% DKIM, and messages are getting delivered, and there is no issue as such from a delivery into the spam folder or delivery into like disappearing delivery along the way. So that's this site DMARCian is a small but free service. As a test, they have started it up very recently. But there are other bigger services that have come up that I think companies use, like Boeing does and like Microsoft does. Let's go see what these companies do. So DMARC record, there is a record that needs to be created for that, by the way. And so the idea of creating a DMARC record is something like this. You have to specify a record somewhere. Where is that? It's fairly recent technology. And here are the common tags used in DMARC records. So the text record should be like this. Okay, so let's go dig. So I'll go dig and find out what that record for my own domain is. And it is dig dmarc.cloudgenie.us, and let's go find out the txt value for that, and let's see what comes up. So here is the answer. The answer is this, is the string. And let's go study the string output that we get. From the query was a simple query on dmarcselector.cloudgenie.us and get me the txt record. So I got the value in the answer section. I'm going to copy that and read. And copying it, bringing it here, and paste. So we have a couple of flags here. One is p equal to none flag. Percent is 100. RUA is a entity that receives reports from email companies or ISPs. And DKIM and SPF selectors, these two that I want to actually measure. So what happens if you don't specify line number 4 is that your company administrator will start receiving. So instead of this mail to this company called ag.dmarkian.com, if you put nilesh@cloudgenie.us.com, every 7 days, you will receive an XML file containing all the emails delivered to that organization from your domain. Not you, but your domain. And anybody in your company who sends out email to everybody on the planet, each of these big ISPs look at this record and send out email in form of a report, XML file that gets delivered to the RUA address. So instead of me receiving those XML files myself, what I chose to do is direct them to this guy. And what is this? It is this same company here, dmarkian, which aggregates those reports for me, because I don't want to read XML by hand. I would rather look at this green flag and so feel happy about it. That's what I exactly do, is let them receive my XML reports from ISPs going to that location that aggregates these XML reports and shows it to me green looking color. And that's good. So that's the purpose of this, is to collect, aggregate statistics from a variety of email service providers that report back to you, how is your domain doing in terms of quality of email. So why all this matters is primarily around spam and deliverability. That's the core idea underneath these things. So we just concluded discussion on mail service, right? That's mail is a software, and we are using services from companies like Zoho, from Office, from Google, from other companies. Or you can set up your own server. That, like, you can set up Exchange server in your laptop or the desktop, or a server in your office or home or wherever, and use that as your mail Exchange server. That is also works just fine. And yes, that mail server software will generate a DKIM signature for you. And you need to use that and your address where the box sits as the IP address for the DKIM location, and put that in your DNS entry. But then if you do it that way, people on the internet will not trust your box. They'll think that you're a spammer. So that you're very likely to get your emails go into spam. Therefore, it is generally recommended to use a well-known service provider which has history and reputation of being good. Now, one word of caution before we change topics: don't spam people with your emails. That will help your long-term company's reputation on the internet. That will help. So that is something that you want to remember for your company. Each one of you has a domain, which I'm just treating you as a company organizer with your employees and all that good stuff, so that you don't have to do it. But I'm just saying, I know many of you have other things to do. So with that understood, I want to close out on this topic and switch. So we just, this was an example of a software as a service consumption. Like, as a company, each one of us is consuming a service from Zoho or Google or Office, right? Questions, welcome. Now, later, anything is fine, but just if you have a question, shoot it. If you like this exercise, let me know. Was the exercise difficult, easy? I need to know. Was it something that you found that you had to struggle through to find about what this thing is? Because I did not give you any hint. All I said, go buy a domain and send me an email. That's all I said, basically. And so many of you did, which is awesome, which tells me that you were able to do it. So I can probably increase the complexity of the homework next time. And with that, I will change topics. Okay. So I will now open that white sheet of paper and go to the right location. Where was I? Here. And today is day number 3. Okay. And so in the past, we have been beginning to discuss software as a service. And I decided to not spend too much time, although we did some time, at least in the session. But you did a homework on this and used email service. That's beautiful. You can also extend the same idea to other services. For example, you can use SharePoint service, or you can use instant messaging services, or Google Talk, or they call it, I think, something else these days called Hangout. They call it Hangout. You can use Skype for Business, Skype for Business, SFB. So that tool requires additional configuration in your zone file for you to be able to use Skype for Business in your domain. You can do that exercise on your own. If you're interested in expanding, expand that in that direction, so that you can learn various services that you can deploy on your domain. So you have a domain there, you just finished the email services, you can extend into other services like SharePoint, Site for Business, Hangout, bunch of other things, you can think of, and some service provider will give you a service. But Zoho themselves has a beautiful collection of services that I haven't bothered to look. But you should, because now that you have an account, you should explore their other services and see what it means to you for your company with that 1%, 2% company, whatever you have in that you just established a domain for. So there is a CRM service, there is account keeping, bookkeeping, invoicing service creator, and help desk. You can create a support desk, by the way, for your company if you like, through this button. And many of these services are free. Probably not this one. Apparently it's free trial. Trial means not free. And so look at the pricing. Don't sign up for anything that is costing money, but just figure out what they have and learn. That's our goal. Not spending money is not our goal. Okay. So back to this sheet. So we discussed software, and now we want to cover some of the aspects of infrastructure as a service, which I said there are 3 parts to it, like compute, storage, and network. The last time we did our compute exercise, we struggled with it. At least I struggled with it. And I'll tell you where I got the resolution towards. And so I'll describe that briefly. By the way, there is a video recording which extended 3 hours. After 3 hours, we just spent 20 minutes extra. So that portion of extra 20 minutes also is recorded and available. You should watch that because that shows you what we actually did. And so I'll repeat those quickly to help us understand what was going on. We were trying out compute services with the Oregon Cloud, and I could not do it, could not succeed. I succeeded with Virginia Cloud, no problem. Succeeded with another cloud company called Vultr, no problem. Tried with on my Mac, tried with my virtual machine. All of that worked out except Oregon. And I was, after that, after figuring out and isolating that root cause of what's going on, turned out that I had a bad setting in my Oregon region. And I'll show you what setting was bad and how do you find it out. And that's this exercise, by the way. So we will have some fun in that segment. It's a networking setting that was broken in my case of Oregon Cloud that was preventing me from accessing anything in that cloud. That is what was the root cause. Now, if you think that we should do another example of using a public key and private key to make sure that people are able to understand and recap, I think we should do that. And more importantly, I want to talk about something that we did not the other day. So it's not about being able to troubleshoot, but more about how do we connect and how do you make sure that we handshake in a secure fashion. Handshake as in connect to a service provider and make sure that our security is intact. So for that, the core ideas that we discussed the last time, and I'm going to briefly mention them here. There is a thing called public key and a private key. So this is your private key. This is your public key that gets created in a folder called .ssh. That's where it gets stored, and you generate a key pair through this command. And now, once you have a public and private key pair, you give this one to the cloud provider. And you keep this one safe. And use it to connect, right? That's our core idea. So we will understand some of the other aspects regarding security as it establishes a connection and the handshake how it works out. So we'll do a simple example. We'll go to this cloud called my.vultr.com and log in. And there, I want to make sure that these guys have my public key, which I think they do. So I'm going to confirm that piece. So I'm going to start my virtual machine, grab my public key, give it to them. Don't update this VirtualBox right now. Just start the machine. It's okay to update VirtualBox, but don't have to. It'll work without the updates. The update might come. I suggest that you update VirtualBox only if you run into a problem. And I'll tell you if you do. Otherwise, there is no emergency or need to update your VirtualBox software as such. It might prompt you like it did to me, but don't have to. There is no necessity as such. I think I saw Brian. Did I see Brian? Brian, I think I briefly showed up. Hello, Brian. Are you there?
Yes.
Oh, hi. So Brian joined in. Brian is also a Boeing employee. Can you briefly introduce yourself, Brian?
Yeah, I'm Brian Pajoli. Yeah, I work at Boeing. Right now I'm in stress analysis. Yeah, I'm sorry I missed the first couple
No
sessions.
worries. We have recordings there for you. No worries.
Interesting week, so
Yeah, awesome. Good to see you and welcome.
thank you.
Yeah. So what I was discussing is that we have this workstation running. In that we have our folder called .ssh. So we'll go to that folder, and there you will find those public key, private key pairs. I'm going to copy this public key and take it to my cloud company. And so this public key I am copying like this. And copy. Now I'll go to my company that provides me cloud machines and tell them, hey, take this key. And so this key that I have, apparently, I'm going to delete that one just to cut confusion. So I deleted old keys, add a new key, and call it my ID_RSA, and paste, and add the key. So they have the key pair now. Now I will start a machine, new computer, get me one in Seattle. And then I choose the operating system, let's say Debian. And here I choose the $5 box, and I say that I want to choose my ID_RSA key pair, please. And then I give it a name. This machine name is called test. And I deploy. So it gets started in a minute. I will see it here, the IP address. Once that IP address shows up, I will now go back to the machine here and list out all the other files that we have. So we have this file called known host. And I want to remove that because it did not exist to begin with. So I'm going to remove this file called known host and talk about what this file actually does. And by the way, I'm not going to work in the SSH folder because that doesn't make sense. I'll come out by typing cd tilde or just enter cd enter. That also works. So you can always list out contents in that folder like this, and you will see that I have removed the known host file. Now I'm ready to connect to that virtual machine that I just established. I know that the command to go is root at IP address, and then my private key reference here that goes like this basically. So I want to provide my IP address in this location as soon as I get that from the cloud company, which I do. And it is still telling me that it is installing right now, so I should wait for it patiently. And now it is still installing. And so once that installation finishes, I should be able to connect to that machine. But before it connects, watch what happens when you attempt to connect. And I think you did remember the last time when it asks you this question, which is, hey, are you sure what you want to connect? Or let's read that question, which pops up as soon as you hit the SSH command to connect, establish a connection with this IP address using the root login name and passing your private key as a parameter to the command. So this is how you will authenticate yourself. And the machine over there has your public key already. And that's the thing that I'm waiting for the machine to become available. So let's go check. Is it running right now? Yes. Okay, now I can go back here and say, connect please. So it has to go figure out a way to route to this box and attempt to connect to that box using SSH command. So now let us read the response. Yes, question.
Can you do that, SSH as root? Or have you allowed that?
Yes, allowed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you control, this is infrastructure as a service. So you control whatever you feel like. And especially these smaller clouds, like Vultr Cloud gives you root access. Even Amazon will give you root access. They'll let you set up your operating system. So you decide. In infrastructure as a service, you dictate. There's nobody else controlling anything apart from the underlying hardware you don't choose. Everything else you control. Even to the extent of how do you connect wires and virtual wires. I'm talking about networking gear. You can configure that. I'll show you an exercise on that as well as we go along. But yes, you have full, absolute, total control over starting, stopping, logging, root, this and that. And also no root. If you don't want to use root, you can make sure that your people in your company don't use root. You have that control and ability. But then infrastructure company doesn't control that at all whatsoever. Having said, let's log in or attempt to log in and read what it says. So I'm going to log in, and it says, it basically in English language, if I read this, it says, hey Nilesh, are you sure what you're doing? Do you really want to connect with this thing? Do you understand what that thing is? Do you know them? Are you sure? That's what the question is. Now, what it is doing is it is trying to validate a fingerprint of that remote machine and is going to remember that machine as a machine that I know and trust as a known host. So right now you see that this file called known host that I had deleted completely, right? And then I attempt to connect. So now I'm going to say yes and enter. And it said something now. After I said yes, it did something. It says, warning, permanently added this key to the list of known hosts. So a new file known host got created again with an entry about this box that I know and trust. What does that translate to? It means if I exit out from that Ubuntu box for now, come back to my workstation, and I list out what do I have in that folder. I have this file called known host file. And so if I cat that file, you will see that it has entry. This entry, this hash, is a hash entry corresponding to the box that I connected, attempted to connect, and said, I know this. I know this box. I got this. Don't worry. I understand what I'm doing. I know this host. So therefore, the name known hosts, it's plural, because you can add multiple hosts like that, and they will all get accumulated in the same file. And these are the hosts that I know and trust. They're mine. So now, if I attempt to connect to this box again, pretty much the same way, it will just shut up and connect like this. No questions. Why? Because the known host file tells this command that I know the server. There's no need to worry about. I know it, I trust it, it is a known host. That's the concept. I hope you got that. Now, how do I know whether this box has my public key? Where is it stored? Where is it saved? I know my private key is right here. And the box that I have created here, this box, test box, I gave the public key, SSH keys, and this is the key that I gave. And they have the key, so they must have injected the public key somewhere in this box that I'm connected to right now, which is a Debian system. This one, it's a Debian Linux. And so it has the public key somewhere. Where is it? That's what I want to find out. So let's go see that. It is also in the same folder, but in the remote computer, not here, there, Seattle. Same folder, but in the remote computer. You will see it. It is called, and again, conceptually, compare this file authorized key, the name of that file, with this file known host. Known host is a list of hosts that I know and trust, and it is kept locally in my workstation right here. Authorized keys is very, very similar in concept. It is a list of all the keys that are authorized to access that box. And so let's go open it up and read. What does it contain? And you will see that this contains my public key. The same one, if you can see, the last few characters are IJSYV. Note that, IJSYV, and compare here, IJSYV, right there. So it is the same key. It has been injected into this file, authorized keys. And this file is a list of all the keys that this box will be allowing connections from. So if you happen to have a private key with you, why don't you please give me your public key? And what I intend to do is take your public key and manually inject into this box and let you connect. So when you connect from your location, you can come in and it will allow you to connect. So right now on this machine, I am only me connected on this IP address. That's my location. If I get your public key, what I think you should do is grab your public key like this, copy it, and paste it in Slack chat, pretty much like this. Oops, not like that, cancel. And I will open Slack, and in Slack, why don't you provide your public key to me? So Travis, I think, is typing, and I will take that public key and paste it into the same file as another entry, second entry. And then I will construct a command for Travis, and Travis can execute that from his computer and connect to my box. Because I am authorizing his key specifically as the key that is also authorized to connect. Oh man. I am going to decline that and do not disturb. Okay, so I think Travis just gave me that, right? No, not yet. I don't see your key there, Travis.
Yeah, not yet. Just copying from the terminal is always fun.
Okay. Yeah. So I think what I want to do is make sure that people understand, all of you understand what am I trying to do, because that is the key part. It's not the mechanics of it, but the concept is what I want you to focus on. Is what I'm doing is taking his public key, putting it in the authorized keys file. So right now in this, I think it's probably an emergency. If you don't mind, let me get this phone. So let me get this phone. Somebody is repeatedly calling me, something wrong. Hello, Ishan. मैं क्लास में हूँ.
हेलो अच्छा बात कर सकते हैं 2 मिनट
क्या बोल जल्दी फटाक.
ये टायर एक अंदर वाला इनसाइड वॉल में फट चुका है वो.
हाँ तो बदल दे, टायर फट चुका तो बदल दे.
एक वो बोल रहा है कि ऑल व्हील ड्राइव है तो एक नहीं बदल सकते, चारों बदलना पड़ता है.
बोलना यूज टायर दे दे, अभी बाद में बदलेंगे चारों. ठीक है, ऐसे बोल उसको.
यूज टायर कैसे
यूज टायर देते वो लोग. पूछ उसको, माम से बात कर नेक्स्ट. बाय अभी एक यूज पूछ उसको. 4,000 में आएंगे. हाँ यूज पूछ उसको, माम से बात कर बची हुई. Sorry about that. That was my son calling for something that is critical. So I'll describe that later. So you have a key pair for me, do you? Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. So anybody else is welcome. You don't have to wait just for Travis. Anybody also can paste a public key for me, and don't share your private key with anybody, as you already know. Just the public key, and you copy that from the command line. You should do something like this: cat.ssh and then id_rsa.pub, and then take that public key portion. You copy it like this. You can ignore the comment portion. This portion is comment. The useful portion of public key ends right there. And you grab all of this and then copy. And then you go to Slack. And then you paste like a snippet, by the way. Don't just paste. Paste like a snippet. And then you paste. And then say, create a snippet. And what this does, makes it readable. Right? So you can see that I can easily read. It formats better. Another way to format is to just put a backtick and say hello and how are you. You can see this hello is a formatted text in a backtick format. So anything you want to put in code or something that is mono width font or easy to copy and paste, you should backtick or use a snippet. Anybody with a public key, please. Okay, don't hold me up. Is there a problem with copying pasting or something, or that maybe?
Yeah.
If you have a
Yeah,
copy
really
and paste
funny.
problem.
It's really funny. It's just pulling a couple characters, but you know how copying in terminal.
I know. So what I would suggest is somebody else try, or what I will suggest is give you a private key. I create a public key for you.
Yeah, I'm moving it to out of the SSH folder and using Atom to open the file to grab it that way, and then I can pull that into a proper editor that I can actually cut and paste from.
Okay.
You can usually cut and paste with the middle mouse on a terminal.
Yes, so there I have a public key right there from Travis, and I'm going to grab all of this, copy, and then this public key, I'm going to go to the remote machine first, like this. In that remote computer, I will go to that folder and then look for this file called authorized keys and edit it. And in that file, I'll create one more line, and there I paste it. And when I paste I noticed that I have also copied the comment, which is n10 at Guru, which is totally okay to leave like that. It doesn't hurt. So I have 2 lines in this. The first line is the first public key. That is my key. The second line is Travis's public key. Now this machine knows that there are 2 public keys in that file. You should also notice that the file permissions are RWX, and then nothing for anybody else. So only me or the root user can actually modify. That's a critical requirement of this file. It has to be RWX and then nothing, empty dashes, 6 dashes empty. You should read more about this file permissions business on your own, or maybe I'll talk about that later, but not right now. This authorized key file now has access for Travis. What does that mean? It means Travis can also run the same command like I did here. Same exact command, provided his key file location is the same. So I'm going to copy that command and let Travis connect. And I will paste that command into command line for Travis to use. So Travis, you are now welcome to connect to my remote computer.
Sweet.
And right now, as you can see, only I am connected. And in a few seconds, you should see Travis also coming on the same machine. And so both of us should have root control because I gave that control. And I'll try one more time. Are you connected now, Travis?
Yeah, I just got in.
Okay, there we go. So the other idea, this other IP address here is Travis's IP address. And this is mine. So you see the concept, right? Multiple people can connect to the same box simply because both of us are authorized. There are 2 key pairs, public key pairs. Sorry, wrong way of saying. There are 2 public keys in the authorized key file, which means there are 2 private keys authorized. One private key is with Travis and one is with me. And we are not sharing our keys, but we are able to access the same box. We are not sharing passwords. We are not sharing private information, but we are sharing the box. And that's by choice. And we did that. If I want to knock out Travis, I can. If Travis wants to knock me out, he can. You know how to do that, right?
Actually, no, I've never fiddled with other users, you know.
So to knock people out, you have to look at the processes and log them out, basically. So this is what kids do in the college. So you look at who's logged in, find out the process ID and kill the process ID, log him out, and then remove the public key for that person, and you take over the machine.
Yeah,
you can do that, but I'm not doing that right now. But just giving you ideas, right? Ideas to mess around. Don't do that in a corporate setting, right? Don't do that in a corporate setting. Only for private, yes, totally okay. Private, you can mess around as long as you like. Now, in a corporate setting, that is a bad idea. In the company, even if you lock me out, I still have a backdoor to it, by the way, if you did not know. The way backdoor works in certain clouds, not every cloud will allow you this. But if I somehow decide that, if Travis decides to kill me, completely knock me out, remove my public key and everything, no worries. Because I pay this company, I have the control of their website. That's my profile is available. What I can do is go to that test server. And in there, I will, only certain clouds allow this access, by the way, is to look at the console directly. And so here is the login console. Here I can type in with the root login name and password. What's the password? I have no idea. So we have to go back here and find out what the password is. It's hidden. I can copy it or just view the password. This happens to be the password for that box, the root password. And certain clouds allow that. Not every cloud will do that. Amazon does not. Microsoft does not. Google does not. Other clouds do. They give you this backdoor. This is virtual network computing, VNC. So you can just type in root login password and gain access. Change the root password, remove his key, and just basically take control. But it is a whole lot easier to just destroy the box and say, hey, Travis, you logged me out. I can kill the box. And that's how it works. Right? So the box is dead.
Hey.
That's how it, that's how you take revenge, if you like. So the box is getting destroyed and all that good stuff, but that's too much fun. So just forget all that. So the backdoor is a proper way to connect to the box. Some clouds allow it, some don't. But if you manage to somehow lose access to a box because you lost your private key, in that case, there is no other way to get into the box. For example, if you go to Amazon Web Services and there you create a machine and you forget the private key, you're screwed. That box has to be killed, terminated. There is no other way. It doesn't allow you any other way to get access control again. So remember that. That is why, that actually brings up this idea of talking about a concept that I think is relevant. So I'll describe that in a piece of paper. Where is that piece of paper? Right here. Okay. Then working. Okay. So the concept is pretty much like this. If you have, imagine if you're in Texas and you are a cowboy and you have, you have cattle, like 10,000 cows, and you are a cowboy and you are on a horse and you have a gun, and in one hand you have a gun and the other hand you have whiskey. Now, out of those 10,000 cows, one cow falls sick. What do you think this cowboy will do? That's what I'm thinking of. A cloud machine is just like that. You take your gun and you shoot the cow. That's what a cowboy will do, right? I hope you agree with this perspective.
No.
No?
Cowboy shooting a gun?
No.
Sorry.
Exactly. Never heard of, right? Cowboy drinking whiskey, never heard of. So the idea is you look at a cow and shoot the cow and move on. Is how you treat cloud machines. They are disposable. On the other hand, you have a puppy and you have a family of three, mom, dad, and a child, 3 people, right? Yeah. And they're taking care of the sick puppy. All 3 of them are dedicated to devoting to healthcare and, basically welfare of that poor little puppy who's sick. And they will put all their energy, attention, time, resources, money, everything to make the puppy good again. That is a data center machine. So if you have a machine in your data center, that is how you typically treat your computers, your servers, with precaution, with care, with attention. I am suggesting do the exact opposite. Treat your machines like cows, like cattle, and don't treat them like puppies. In fact, going to the extreme extent of not even naming them. Like, in this example, you will notice I have a name for my boxes. I have 2 boxes. One is called current server Seattle and the other one is old server. So there are 2 boxes running apparently here. I would not want my machines to have names, because once you have a name, you fall in love with that thing. And therefore, Amazon doesn't allow you to name machines. If you go to EC2, there is no way to name it. You can tag it, but that's not the idea. In fact, if you start a machine instance, let's do that. And I hope I want to do this in Oregon region to struggle again. Hope not, but just saying. And so select and T2 micro, configure the details, request a public IP, add some storage and add some tags. Here you can add some tags for nomenclature, but not necessary. You configure security groups, choose an existing group, select this one, and then you review and launch. And when you launch, there is only a number, like a tag number. There is no name assigned to the machine. You launch an instance, it gets an instance ID. The instance ID is this number, and that ID shows up right there. And soon it will get a public IP address. But remember, there is no name associated with the machine. The concepts are very, very similar, except in the cloud, you can start these machines through programs, through software. You don't even have to use a mouse to click. And that's the core idea behind a cattle versus puppy story, is you treat your computers in the cloud as cattle, not like puppy. And so anytime something goes wrong, just in the cloud, not in development, right? I'm not talking development. I'm talking production machines. Something goes wrong, shoot it down, create a new one, and do this through automation. And we'll do these exercises hands-on coming up in subsequent sections. How do we automate? How do we, in the DevOps segment, there's a lot of this thing that you will see coming over and over again, where you don't have to worry about a dead machine or bunch of dead machines. Just shoot them out, move on. Because that's the right way to approach in live production environment. You can do your diagnosis, testing, debugging, what went wrong, post-mortem activities later on. You do that in a separate area, not in the production. You don't touch machines by hand, don't use mouse to create them through automation programs, and you destroy them also through automation programs if things go wrong. And so you basically go hands-free. The ultimate goal of that automation is to have your infrastructure up and running while you go on vacation in Hawaii. And it keeps on running by itself, maintains its own health, maintains its everything about your customer, makes them happy, while you can still be on vacation in Hawaii, having whatever you're doing. That's the idea behind automation, is to free you up so that you can enjoy. And we'll actually do exercises as to how do you go on vacation. How do you actually automate? That's what we will do. And let's see if that machine is ready with that IP address. And in my hand, I should be able to connect to it. So this time, I hope I succeed. So let's go see. SSH and Ubuntu at IP address. Come on. IP address should be copy did not work. Copy, paste, and then the -I option. Okay, it worked. Yeah, I'll tell you now what was going on the other time. In a subsequent exercise, we have a full-fledged exercise on that exact issue, and we'll talk about that later. But you saw the connectivity. You also saw the same scenario here of the authorized key file. Same setup here. Authorized keys file contains the authorized key, which is my public key store right there. And that is how I was able to connect. The route to those boxes on Oregon region the other day were not available. That's why the traffic was not flowing through all the way to the box, and therefore unable to connect. Now here, I'm going to exit and kill this machine. Literally right click and say instance state and say terminate. Remember, stopping doesn't stop the bill. You have to kill it. Terminate instances. Terminate and say yes. And then the bill stops. Here also the same thing. You destroy with a delete button, not just shut down, not just stop or halt. Okay, I think this was enough from the perspective of handshake of known hosts file and authorized keys file, where the known host file basically is a list of all the hosts that I know and trust and am able to connect. On the other hand, on each of these servers that I have outside, hundreds of them, thousands of them, whatever I might have, each one of those servers will keep a list of all the keys that are authorized to connect. So that's called authorized keys. And you have to have those private keys with wherever their people are, your company people, employees, things of that nature. But each of those boxes, you will have hundreds and thousands of them, will have this file called authorized keys, pretty much like you saw. And that file will store all the keys that are authorized. And by the way, this authorized key business, known host business, how many keys, which hosts are known, which hosts are not known. And you should also make sure that your company employees are connecting to only those known hosts and not random machines. You should also make sure that your company employees are authorized to connect. The keys that they have, the private keys, are listed as authorized keys. And also remember to write automation to remove those keys and renew them. So basically you create a new key pair, place that new key pair in place, test it, validate it, and then discard the old key pair. This changing of key pair is called key rotation. A rotation is necessary and essential for life. You want to basically, on a policy basis, rotate key pair on every so often. So some companies do it every 3 months. Some companies do every month. It's basically a policy thing, but it's a great idea to change clothing like that, change key pair. Basically, that's the core idea. And if you have like 10,000 servers, it is a time-consuming, boring, and a hassle to actually manually change 10,000 key pairs. So you write scripts and make it happen automatically on a periodic basis. And we'll talk about that also. We'll talk about automation. Most of these things will be automated, and we'll do them through a variety of tools that we'll use. I think for right now, let us change topics to the next topic, which is storage as a service. So we discussed briefly compute. We understood the basics of connectivity, basics of security, establishing handshake with a key file and a key pair and authorized keys and known hosts and all that. We'll switch to storage as a service. Storage is available right here in a variety of cloud companies. One of them is Amazon. And if you go to the orange box at the very top left corner, you will find a full section dedicated to storage. Right there, storage. And these services are storage services from Amazon. Pretty similar to these guys, other clouds provide. So we'll show Google Cloud, cloud.google.com. They also provide similar services. Same with Amazon, same with Microsoft. So we go to Windows Azure or Azure Microsoft.com. They also have similar structures. We'll discuss these one by one, and rather we'll discuss them in form of categories of services. So here are some examples of 1, 2, 3, 4 types. We'll discuss these things not by their names of S3 or EFS or Glacier, but what they actually do. So what are the 3 classifications that are relevant here? Let's go look at that first. So changing my piece of paper again. So in storage service, there are 3 types of broad types of services available. One, where you store objects, and I'll describe what an object is. And the second one is where you store files. And the third one is where you archive long-term. I don't know if the type spelling is correct or not, but yeah, pardon. Yeah, somewhere like that. So correct the spelling part. But let's understand, if you know what an object is and how it is different from a file, let's go understand that piece. Do you know already? Or do you want me to elaborate on what a file versus object would be? Let's go see an example. I think it's easiest to understand. So I will tell you that this S3 is actually an object store. EFS is a file store. And Glacier is an archive, a long-term archive. Now in Google, if you go to the console in Google Cloud, you will see the same thing, 3 things. In storage, you have, actually there are more in Google, but compared to object store in Amazon, it was called S3, the simple storage service, SSS, that's what it's called. It's S3. In case of in case of Google, it is called, what's it called? Storage. What's their name? Storage. I think it's just called storage, apparently. Yeah, it's called storage. So in this storage concept that I'm talking about, you store objects. And in case of Microsoft, I think they have a thing called Blob Store. So Blob Store, Azure. That will come up. So here, Azure Blob Store, you can read more about it, but I just, in a nutshell, very quickly describe what this thing actually does for us. There's too much of stuff to read, and it can be daunting. So I'll simplify it to the simplest level so that we get the idea clear. We are now actually talking about this thing called object store. It's a storage place to store objects. And I'll distinguish between an object and a file very, very clearly. So what is an object? Object can be a picture, a video, a movie, or a music, a MP3 file, a document, Word document, PowerPoint file, anything like geo data or satellite data, any kind of information that you can store in a bucket. You put an object in the bucket. That is what an object is. But I must have confused you by now, because I described all things that are basically files and I called them objects. So was I kidding? No, no, I'm not. Basically, files are objects. The distinction is how you access them and how do you read them or write to them. That's the distinction. In case of object store, you basically store files. You dump things. The problem or the difference between object store and file store is, in a file, you can see. For example, here is my MP3 file. It starts at this point onwards and it goes all the way through 3 minutes. So I can seek into 1 minute and 1.01 into the file. And from that point onwards, I can play, or rather read, if I will. And that is seekable. Seek. I can go backwards, forwards, all the way to the end, all the way to the beginning. I can traverse within the file. And that is how you know a file in a file system. That's how most of us know files are. And that is exactly what you do when you're dealing with those things and call them files and deal with a file system. But when you put the same thing in an object store, you cannot seek into the file, seek into the file. If you want to seek, you have to bring the object down to a local file system and then seek. That is okay, that is possible. The object itself, you cannot seek into the object. You can get it, you can put it, you can delete it, you can share it. All of that is possible, but seeking not possible. That is how, and that is why it is called an object. It is basically like I take this pen, put that in the bucket. Take this trackpad and put that in the bucket. And that's basically it. So you take an object, put it in the bucket. It's in the bucket. So if you want to read it, if you want to seek into it, you have to take it out of the bucket, put it in a file system like your C drive or D drive or whatever drive you have, and then seek into the file. And so that's the distinction between an object and a file. It's the way you treat it. Now, examples. We'll take an object, a file, a picture, and put that in a bucket. How do you do that? You have to create one. Bucket has to be created. It doesn't exist. So this service provider that we talked about bucket services, rather I should say object services, object service providers. These guys give you an ability to create bucket, delete bucket, share a bucket, make it public. And so what you're doing in that scenario is you are actually creating a bucket. And then you can put objects in there. You can delete objects. You can get objects. So putting and getting is different from reading and writing, right? Get is kind of sort of like reading, but not really. And put is kind of sort of like writing, but not really. You can write a file halfway through and stop and pause and then write the remainder. In a put, you have to put the whole thing. You cannot like halfway stop and put the remainder later. That's not okay, not possible. So put, get, delete, share, all those things are possible. And that was kind of, very, very conceptual. So let's go see some examples. Now there are 3 services I mentioned, 3 different companies, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. So Amazon calls it simple storage service. It's basically simple as have a bucket and throw your object and it will keep it for you. That's called S3 in Amazon. In Google, they call it storage. That's their name. In Microsoft, they call it blob. All of these are basically names. So we'll not worry too much about nomenclature, but instead get to using them. So there has to be a way to create a bucket and then put an item in the bucket, an object in the bucket. That's what I will do next. So I'll take one of these services. Let's see which one is open. This one. So here it shows Google's storage solution. Storage, that's the name. It's kind of fancy. Let me go to the right account. Okay. So in that account, I seem to have a bucket already. The bucket is called Cloud Genius. But for the purpose of this exercise, I will create a new bucket. So here, create a bucket. And I'll call this bucket Travis. And this bucket name is taken, which means I cannot use this name. So what do I do now? I should use this another name. So I'll maybe put some sticker, append some alphabets, and see if it will let me create a bucket by this name, Travis blah, blah, blah. And I think it might very well succeed, unless somebody magically has typed exactly the same sequence. And then it will cause a collision and it will fail again to create the bucket, just like it did not create this bucket, right? It says a bucket name already in use. What about this? Yeah, I can create. So Travis J, or rather I should say Travis M. Yeah, so Travis M works.
Nice.
So by the way, don't say nice, because if I take it, you cannot.
I'll have to pay you money.
So that's the problem. It's unique, right? So don't say nice. Say, please don't take that. I want to take it. That's how we should. But don't worry. This is silly.
Emojis in there.
Yeah, put emoji. So this is the bucket name I chose. And I can decide to choose it multi-regional and make it regional, make it nearline, core line. We'll describe these things. But right now, just multi-regional, like global bucket. Multiple regions. Redundant across 2+ regions within your selected location. So in Europe, in European Union, in Asia, I just select US. And then I create a bucket. I created it. So the bucket becomes available. The bucket is called Travis MJ blah, blah, blah. And that's my bucket. And you can see that there are no objects. So now what do? I have to put an object, right? So I take an object, upload it. What am I doing? Essentially, I'm going to my pictures folder and looking at a nice picture here, and just say, there we go. Yeah, this picture looks nice. So I'm going to take it and upload it. So it is uploading right now. And basically what I'm doing is I just put an object in the bucket. So now that bucket has this object. And that's it. That's the end of the story. I mean, I just described to you storage service, as simple as that. That's all it takes. That's the idea. There is no other thing in it here. I mean, don't think of it as a big thing. It is as simple as taking an item and putting it in a bucket. In practice, you can also use the words, I create a folder and put a file in there. But the distinction being reading, seeking, writing is not possible. You have to get the whole file down before you can do something like that with it. So now that file.
Yes. Like why is that? Why couldn't you have a seek method on your object?
Because it is not a file system. It doesn't allow. It's remote. The only way to get to it is this way. This URL. That's the only way to get to it. So it's not a local file system. It's an item, HTTP item. It's a HTTP. Let's go see that. So I'll show you now. So here in that particular file, if I look at its properties, I can make sure that if you share it publicly, I get a public link. I copy that public link right there and take it to a notepad. And here I paste it. So now look at that carefully. So it is basically using the storage service in this bucket, and the object name is line number 6. Now if I take that item and paste it in Slack chat, you can see it. And so you can see that this URL is now publicly accessible because that's what I decided. Make it public. So I said, make public. And so it became public. Now tomorrow, if I change my mood and I say, no, not public. So now you cannot see it. Even if you have the URL, you cannot see it because of policy. I modified my policy and said, no, not public anymore. So even if you hit that link on Slack chat, nothing opens. You hit it and you cannot access it right now. If you already had clicked, you have it, but otherwise no. So that's the idea. Here you can see that it has a size characteristic, a type characteristic, the storage class multi-regional, date modified, and some other properties like edit permissions. And you can see who the permissions, who can get those, so you can further go granular in terms of, who in your company can access, read, modify, write, delete, all those characteristics you can specify here. But think of it as an object stored in a bucket and we are done. That's the entirety of this usage of the service. There are other variations to the same usage, and I'll describe that. Right now, I want to make sure that this is actually publicly available again, so that now go click on that link and actually see that you can actually see this thing. The picture that you see moving with whales and containers moving in a, what I call, this picture is called Swarmnado, like Sharknado, Swarmnado. This is Docker Swarm illustration. It is nice and fancy, so I like it. So now click and confirm that you can actually access this object. Can you? I think you should be, because I made it public. You should be able to see it, right?
Yeah, it's nice animated.
Okay, good. So now let us disable access. So I will go back to here and say not public anymore. And actually, I want to just delete it. So I'll say delete that item, go away, and it goes away. As simple as that. I can even go in bucket and delete the bucket. So here, this bucket goes away. And so the bucket itself is gone. Do the same thing here in Amazon. Very simple. S3, and I have a bunch of buckets here already, but I'll create one more. So I'll create a bucket, and I'll call it Travis. And it is taken very likely. So I'll put M or something else, and then decide where do I want. I want it in Oregon or want it in some other location. I can choose. And then I select that I create the bucket. So I create it. And then it's asking me to further characteristics. I can skip ahead and go next and say next, and then create the bucket. So now I have a bucket called Travis something. And there it is. The bucket is empty. So in that bucket, I can upload and then add some files. And I'll take that Swarmnado file again. And choose. And it goes. So next, next, and next, next, and upload. So it's going to get uploaded there. And in that bucket, I will have one object. And that's this object. Same idea, but a different URL will generate this time when I share it publicly. And I say, I want to get its copy link. And so I take that link, look at it in Notepad, and it looks slightly different. It tells me that it is in Oregon, US West, in Amazon Cloud, in the bucket named Travis, and the file object name is line number 14. Now, if I take that link and try to give it to you, nothing will open up because its permissions are restricted by default. By default, everything is secure. Nobody can access unless I go back here and say, allow permission. So I have to go and modify permissions on the, item property. And I have to go make its permissions. Where did that click? Where is the everybody? Yeah, everybody should be able to read the object. And it's warning me that this object will have public access. Are you sure you want to do this? And I said, yeah. So everybody now has access to the object, which means this link should be openable for you guys like that. And if I disable access, I will not be able to open it even myself. That's the core through HTTP protocol without logging authentication. I should not be able to access. So that's simplistically, that's what it is. And same thing with the Microsoft Cloud. They also do the same idea. Now, in open source domain, there is a protocol called Swift storage. Is Swift storage? Yeah. So in open source, there is a protocol available that you can use to construct out and create very, very similar structures like we just discussed about containers, buckets. And in that bucket, you put an object. You can use this code to create on your own hardware. So this is basically OpenStack component. I think Boeing has a deployment of this already. And this is the object store portion of OpenStack. What this does is gives you a place to create buckets and put objects in that bucket that you just created. That's this project, OpenStack Swift. It's the storage component or the object store component of that open source project that you currently use, some of you. Okay, now how do we use this in a true development and business sense? That's the thing I want to talk about next. So this was kind of silly. If you ask me, this storage as a service was okay. I got a bucket and an object, and what? Now what? So that's what I want to show about, talk to you about. So there is an exercise here. Let's go find it where it is. Okay. Yeah, it's right there. It begins with this name, cloud-based storage services. So we'll begin with this exercise called static sites without servers. So I'll click on that link and then grab that link, and it is asking me to log in. So I will log in first and then go to that link. And then type that link. So it should open up. And that's the link I want to give you also, so you can see what we are doing together. So this Slack chat link is coming up. That's the exercise I am going to do right now. And it gives us a new way of using these storage services. What am I going to discuss is this idea that we can use this S3 solution from Amazon as a place to create static websites without actually using any server ourselves. There will be a server that Amazon will have, but they will not let us deal with it. They will only let us create a bucket and then convert that bucket into a website. As simple as that. What does this translate to? It basically means you create a simple website that looks like this. This is the code. You create a file called index.html, like that. Gedit is the editor. And you edit this file, you put this HTML code in there. And this has to have an image. I think that URL needs to change. There is no image in that location today, I think. So we have to modify that. And let me modify that right now. So that makes it easy. But this should be, and that image should correct once we have this in place. Yes, it is there. So I'm going to save this exercise, which I just modified a little bit. There was a URL mistake. So I corrected that. And now we have that lesson ready. What I want to be able to do is create a index.html file and put that file in the bucket and then mark that bucket as a site. That's what I intend to do. And so when I do that, you should be able to see a website. As simple as that. Just put an index.html with appropriate content showing up, and it renders as a site. Now, it might look silly to you, but let me show you a slightly detailed example of something that is actually another bucket. This site, which is a site I created in 2012, and I haven't bothered to update it since then. And this site there is no server on the back end. It's a decent site, not elaborate, not too much content, but there is some content. It is, you can click through, update it through a JavaScript on the client side. There is no backend database. There is no CPU. There is no server running, nothing, just a bucket. And it contains some code, which is all static. It doesn't change. There is no database component, but it's a site that is decently reasonably complex and functional and useful and high performing and globally available. But I pay 1 cent, sometimes even less, every month for the last so many years. That's the example that we will evolve towards, but we'll begin with a very silly example like this. The very, very simple HTML. So what I'm doing is taking this HTML and taking it to my command line editing a file called index.html, and then pasting this right here. Now I have it. I'm going to save it and close it. Now I have a file called index.html right here. I want to take this file and give it to a bucket, right? So that's what you can do, or you can use your local computer to create. This is a simple exercise. You can just use Atom locally if you like. And in Atom, oh, what did I do? Where is Atom? There. So here is Atom. Here's the file. And I'm going to save it. This is a piece of code opened up. Okay, so we'll deal with that code later. I'm going to save this on the desktop as index.html. Index.html, save, and the file should show up on the desktop right here. And I'm going to close out on the editor, go to my Amazon cloud, and in there, I will, where is Amazon console? Not this, AWS. Amazon console, and go to the S3 section like that. And in there, we look for the Travis bucket. Where is Travis? Right there. And in that bucket, we have this Swarmnado. I will delete that. I don't need it anymore. So we'll go say more and delete and say, yeah, go away. And now upload that file we have created, add some file that we have in mind. And the file is called, on the desktop, it is called index.html, and I choose and I send next and next and next and next. And there it is. So now I'll make that file public. So permissions, everyone, read and save. So now I have this file available in that location. I will take that location, copy, and there it is. So it's a simple looking site showed up. That's the beginnings of our discussion right now. So I'm going to paste that link for you. And there is the site. It's a picture and some writing, so basically silly stuff. But just showing you a beginning of a larger demonstration so that you don't need to write HTML code, because it is a hassle to write code by hand if you can have a system that will write code for you. And that is what I will be using. So there are these beautiful open source products available that will generate code for you. All you need to do is decide what needs to be written. And so the written part, the English part you write, the HTML part is generated. The CSS is also generated. JavaScript also generated. And these tools are tremendously popular and useful for content distribution software of a variety of different types. So if you have a news organization publishing news stories, or if you have some other one-to-many dissemination of information, this kind of a model is tremendously powerful because it is extremely effective in cost, and it's globally available at a cheap price, and highly resilient and scalable, and all of that good stuff. And I'll describe more about that as we go along. So to enable those scenarios, in every computer language, there are multiple projects that will help us construct static site. Those things are called static site generators. That's the generic name for these things. So here are a couple of them. One of them is Hugo. That's one. There is another one called, there is a top 10. There we go, top 10 list. So what do we have here? Jekyll. We have Hugo. We have Hexo. We have Gitbook. We have Octopress. That's what I want to use today, by the way, Octopress. There is Gatsby. There is Pelican. And there are, all of these guys are, by the way, open source. Brunch.io, Metalsmith, Middleman, and more. There are probably, I don't know how many, but there are tons and tons of them. I'm going to use today Octopress. And this is another open source project written in Ruby language by this gentleman called Mathis. He calls himself iMathis, or rather Brandon Mathis. He wrote that, and he develops it, maintains it. It is available in the source code right here. And what I intend to do is use this source code to generate a static site that is decently looking for ourselves and put that first in our virtual machine right here. And then once we feel happy about it, we'll have it generate HTML, CSS, JavaScript for us. And then we'll take all that HTML, CSS, JavaScript that the site generator will generate and throw it in a bucket. Then we will convert that bucket into a site, and then we have a site. Then we can even go and point our DNS domain name there as an A record or a CNAME record. And then we have our own irideaharley.com pointing to a bucket without spending money, get a full-fledged website. How about that? And that is the exercise I would like to, that's by the way, homework. I just described to you your next homework. So that's what I would like you to do, is to use your domain name or whatever .com you have or whatever you have, and set a domain on a website without spending money, maybe 1 cent. Oh no, it is free for you, right? First year is free. So yeah, S3 is also included in the package. So you don't pay anything. You just get a bucket, put your static generator site, generate your own site with a Harley picture and all that, put in there in the bucket, convert that into a site, point your domain at the bucket so that all of us will be able to see I Ride Harley showing a picture of James on his Harley. That's the homework assignment. That's what I want you to do. And I'll walk you through with an example, but I'll let you do your own thing on your own domain, on your own time. And if you need help, I'm here. So I'll do the same thing, at least give you some ideas about how to do these mechanics of it. Because if you haven't done this static site generator before, I will have to show it to you. But if there are some people who have done it, just let me know that you have done it so that I will know. If there is anybody who has done this static site generator and used it to create a static site without spending too much money, this, by the way, is a very useful thing to do if you have a new product idea and you don't have too much budget and you want to create a site. You can spend 1 cent, create a good looking site, put your product there, and then get invited to talk on Oprah show. Then the whole world will know about you. They will hit your website. And don't worry, the site scales very nicely without spending a dime. I mean, of course, if Oprah talks about your product, you will get a lot of visitors, and probably you will get a decent amount of bill, like maybe, depending on traffic, maybe $100, $200. But that's a good one, right? If Oprah is talking about your product, it will get sold. I mean, that's a great idea. So that is exactly how this can extend to a practical use. The dominant usage is news organizations disseminating information one to many. It's read-only mode. It is static. Now, exercise. So here it is written down. The exercise is written down in this step. And I just finished one quick step, which is, created this index HTML, put that in a bucket, and what you saw is what you just saw. I already showed it to you. Now we go to the next step. We want to generate a static site. This generation business needs the Octopress tool. So we already discussed the tool is available here in this location on GitHub, and we want to grab it. How do you grab a GitHub project? You clone it. And we'll talk about Git as such at a subsequent date about how to use Git if you haven't used it before, because I think your companies are using Git already. Even Microsoft is using Git to manage Windows. Yes, Windows source code is now in Git control. When I was at Microsoft, it was not. Now today it is in total Git control. Visual Studio supports Git like a first-class citizen, and Windows is being developed using Git. Bunch of other, almost every product, even in Microsoft, is using Git to manage its source code control. And I think it is a necessary thing to know. And so we will do an exercise on Git at some point coming up, maybe 2 or 3 sessions down the road. It is written here, by the way. These exercises are written down in a fashion that you can actually go ahead and read yourself if you like. But I would do it for you. Don't worry. And Git is hard to understand. So I will walk you through and give you examples to get if you try to read a book, it is, oh my God. You have no idea what's going to happen unless if you have used Git already, you don't have to worry about it. You know it already. So for now, if you have used Git, I need to know. I need to know that you know how to use Git. Maybe there are a couple of people in this group that know how to use Git, I suspect. If you know that, I need to know who you are. Next, I'm going to take that first command right there. And maybe it's a good idea to just go side by side. There we go. So on one side, we have this thing. And on the other side, I will put that VM. That makes it efficient. So here on this side, we have the machine. There we go. And there was a Slack chat message. Travis says he knows Git. Good. So now on this machine, I'm going to run a clone command to get that thing down to my machine, my laptop. I'm going to clone that Octopress thing. So here it comes. I'm cloning it. And so this is now available here in this folder, Octopress. So I'm going to go into that folder. And in there, I will do a couple of things. What am I really doing in the next couple of steps is it comes with a lot of things built in for us to use and consume. And if that's the case, I need to understand what those things are. So it comes with it. By the way, Octopress is written in Ruby language. Ruby as a language requires certain other Ruby code that we need to use because Octopress requires it. In order for us to use existing Ruby code, you need to get it, download it. And that download thing is called bundle install. That's the next command on the sequence. So there is a website called rubygems.org. And that Ruby Gems website is like a store central location where you store ready-made Ruby software. Lots of people in the open source will prepare their Ruby packages and put it in that location. It's called Ruby Gems website. Here it is, Ruby Gems. And so I'm going to go to a particular gem there, which is very well known. And that gem is called the Rails gem. It has been downloaded 107 million times. There. And this is the Rails, or also known as Ruby on Rails gem. So Rails is a software, open source. That's what Twitter used to build Twitter.com to begin with, at least in the first few years. It was Twitter.com was a Ruby on Rails site. So Rails is also a gem. It is packaged like a gem. Basically, gem is a Ruby package. That's how you should think about. And this site that I'm looking at is a collection of all those gems that people have created and put together. Very well-known gems have lots of downloads and lots of people starring them on GitHub. And these are ready packages. Now, back in our exercise, what is this? No, not this. Yeah, this. So we have this bundle install. So what is that bundle install going to do? It is going to go through a list of gems that I need. It will go visit rubygems.org, download those gems, and install it right in my computer. That's what I want to do. And so how do I specify which gems do I need? I don't have to worry because the Octopress developer has done it for me, but I'm just going to read what he has done. So I'm going to just open that source code and see what it has. So I just open up that source code in Atom Editor to find out what gems do I actually want to get when I run bundle install. And that is, okay. I want to use a password. This is not necessary. Actually cancel it. Yeah, you can cancel that step if it pops up. It's not necessary. So this gem file thing is a list of all the gems I need. That's what it does. So this is the list of gems that I need to install when I run bundle install. This command will look at this file called gem file, which is a collection of gems this program needs. So it is going to go to the Ruby Gems website at the very top here. There is a chat message. Okay, I think didn't need to unmute this. No worries. Hey, Brian, I want you to know that the chat that you just used is the chat that I do not monitor. Which means
I made that comment about an hour ago.
No worries. That's why I just noted that. That chat I don't monitor because it is not persistent chat. We have a different method of chat that we have been using. It is called the Slack chat. I think you're a member of that group. And in that group chat, you can see all these chats. So and don't worry about mute and unmute, because nobody's making noise. So it's okay to keep everybody unmuted. I have no problem, and there's no issues. So this gem file that you're looking at on the Atom editor on the right side of the screen is a collection of gems that this program needs. This Octopress needs that. So the developer has written it down in a gem file. And I'm going to use that bundle install command to make sure that these gems get installed right here on the virtual machine. So what gems do I need? I need the rake gem. I need the Jekyll gem. I need Octopress hooks, Octopress date format, Jekyll sitemap, R discount, red cloth, Haml, Compass, SAS, RBFS event, file system event, and string extension, and Sinatra gem. So these gems are the packages that I need to get from line number 1, rubygems.org. If you're a big company like Boeing company, and you don't allow your developers in the company to go to random places to grab software, which is the case, right? I know your company policy is very strict. You don't allow people to go grab random software in the open source domain unless it is approved by a software process. So you have a pipeline to get software into your company, which is approved process. So it basically translates to the fact that your internal developers cannot go to Ruby gems. They have to go to something like Boeing gems, Boeing Ruby gems, or something like Boeing, or rather I should say, I should call out like this, rubygems.boeing.com, something like that. Right? You have to make it in your company, create a Ruby Gems repository for your company so that your company internal people can get gems for themselves, which are pre-approved versions for your internal usage. And then you can ask your company developers to get those approved gems to an approved source. And that source needs to change if you're doing it in your company. And you need to have the source, which I don't think you have, but I don't know you have. And so that's how you structure it. So this is how you limit and control your development in your company, even though it is open source. Open source people can think that it is random and you don't have control over things. That's not the case, by the way. You have absolute discipline as to what comes into a production machine at any given time, because you need to regulate. And that is exactly what the purpose of this gem file is it specifies which location it's coming from and goes into detail about exact version numbers of the rake gem 10.0, Jekyll gem 2.0. It is calling out specific version numbers, even though development has proceeded ahead and there is a version 2.1 of Jekyll. But my needs are set with Jekyll version 2.0, and that is what I will get. So this is a framework of providing a disciplined approach towards developing anything in an organization where you control very, very methodically. And so if you don't put a structure like this, you have a problem. This person will do one thing, that person will do something else, and everybody's screwed practically because you have no idea what the other guy is. It works on my machine. Why doesn't it work on your computer? That's a problem. Classic situation. It will show up. The thing works on my computer. What's wrong with you? As if something is wrong with that person. But no. So those problems can be eliminated by putting discipline in place. This is a method of doing that. Gem file. There are many, many such structures that are coming up in subsequent sessions that will help us control the randomness, the perceived randomness behind open source. People worry about these things, sincerely worry about what if things go wrong in the open source? What if somebody in China or Russia hacks something? Don't use it. Let them hack it. You use what you know is good and you keep in your control and control it in your environment. Let them hack whatever they want. They're supposed to be hacking. So, not in a bad way, in a good way, they're supposed to be hacking and developing and improving the product. So that is the idea. Now here, I want to take that command and actually do an install. So this bundle install command will actually read that gem file and go to Ruby gems and grab all these gems, pull them down. It is doing that right now, as you can see. and install it on my machine so that my Octopress becomes ready to run. That is what I'm trying to do. I think somebody is pinging me. It's okay if you want to leave. I just saw that somebody wants to leave. I think Carrie. That's okay. You can go ahead. And I am going to continue to record, so you don't have to worry about if you miss something. You can always catch up and watch. So what is happening right now is that the approach towards a reference, a list of gems are getting installed on this machine so that my Octopress software is getting ready to run. It needs those other gems, which are basically Ruby packages, and it downloads them, puts them, installs them, and tells me that it succeeded. And so now I want to do the next step, which is to to install a default Octopress theme. A theme is the look and feel that you see when you saw that website that I showed you, right? This site, how it looks and feels, that's a theme, like the look and feel of it. So that is what I want to install, the default theme. You can run it by this command. This is now we are running Octopress in the next step. Up until now, we were installing the dependencies needed by Octopress. Now, in rake install, we are actually installing a default theme within Octopress. So it is going to do that, and it just did. It said, I am going to create a folder called source. I'm going to copy a theme, the classic theme, into the source folder. I'm going to create a folder called SAS and copy the classic theme SAS files in the SAS folder. I'm going to also create a folder called _posts into the source folder and create one more thing, which is the public folder. So this public folder is where the generated source code will go and sit. And this posts folder is where I need to be able to write whatever I want to write. So that's where I will create blog post, and this public folder will contain the result. I will take that public folder, put it in a bucket, and I'm done. That's what I intend to do. So we'll now run. But before we run, we want to write something, right? Something meaningful, something useful that we want to write in our weblog. That's the next step. So in the next step, you can see these markers will help you go forward and backward on the website. So that's how you can traverse through. And what I'm talking about here is create 3 new posts. What does that do? It'll create 3 blog posts. So here's how I'll do. Begin first one. So I'll say rake new and copy that from here and bring it here and paste. It says create a new post, rake new post, and the post title will be my first Octopress post. So we'll just create that. And when we do, what happens? Let's watch. So we have a new item called source created, here green colored, another folder called SAS created, another folder called public created. And so this public folder is currently empty. This SAS folder contains some base styling of the CSS styling. And this source file contains a bunch of other things, including the theme that we added. So we don't have to write anything. All we need to do is focus on the post folder. That is also empty currently. And that is where I want to write my blog post. So I need to create first post like this, first command. So it created a post. So we'll go and see that. It should show up in the post folder. In that post folder, I have my first blog post. And that has the title, my first Octopress post. And in the body, I'll say, hello, everyone. There we go. So I just wrote something, right? This is in English language. And I'm going to save it. I just wrote something in English, no code. Close it. That's my first blog post created. It's very simple. Next one, I'll create 2 more. So I'm going to copy this, go to my command line again, and post those 2 commands one at a time, and created 2 more posts. They show up here in the post folder. This is my second post, and this is my third post. So I'll just say, this is second hello, and save. And then this is third, how are you doing? Just writing something silly, right? English language, saved, 3 files, 3 posts created. Now, what I want to do is I think this is listing the post, which I already showed it to you. This is editing and saving your post, which I already did on the Atom editor. So I will move on. What I want to do now is list out the contents of the public folder. Here, this folder is empty. Now I want to generate HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and it will automatically dump in the public folder. You will see that happen when I run rake generate. So here we go, rake generate. So it is generating code right now and dumping it in the public folder. You can see that in a minute and right there. And so we now have the public folder containing a huge bunch of things written for us. And I want to see what it did. I want to see it live, see it running. How do I do that? I want to preview what will the bucket look like when I send it. So I want to preview. So I say rake preview, show me what you got. So it is running a local server on the machine right here, and is going to show me what that site will look like once it goes to the bucket. So I want to go see what they have for me in preview, for which I need to open a browser. The place where I can see this is local machine, local host, and that is available to me in, I think, port number 4000. I think so. It should say that somewhere. It doesn't say that, but yeah, it actually says port number 4000 and on the local machine, which means I need to open a browser in the machine itself. So it has to be the machine in the local virtual machine browser. I'm opening a Firefox, and in there, I would like to open a website called http://localhost and port number 4000. That's what I want to see. And that is a server running locally. I'm going to see it, what it shows. And here we go. A generated blog showing my first post and my archives and my second post and my third post. And all those things are showing up just like that. So it looks good. And now, I mean, good as in, yeah, beginning to look somewhat good, I should say. It's not fancy, but it's usable, right? So let's go the next step, which is send this bucket out to the cloud. So let's do that. So I am going to go to the next step. And remember that this server is still running, so you have to break it. To break the running server, you have to press Control-C to stop it. That's the only way to stop that running server. On the terminal, you break Control-C. That's how it stops. So it came back. And now I have that software generated source code in the public folder sitting ready for me to send to the bucket. I want to do that. And there is a ping request again. I lost sound. Okay, is there any, if that's the case, if somebody seems to have lost my sound. If you cannot hear me, I need to know. Somebody just said they lost sound.
I can hear you.
Okay, if people can hear me, then I think I would like to focus. Who was that person? I forgot.
Can we take a break now?
Yeah, break is good. So we should do that. We'll take a short break and I will start my timer. And off we go. So here, timer started. We'll take a short break, come back, and then we'll take our public folder, dump it in a bucket, and feel happy about it. All automated. So we don't have to do much in terms of actual writing code. We just want to understand what things are and how do we make use of it. Yes, we want to write code also. We'll do that, but not right now. I'm walking away from the computer for 2 minutes. I'll come back. In the meanwhile, and the conference continues. Hey guys, I'm back. So on the thing that we were doing, we tested it out locally. We saw it running in a preview mode in a web browser. The browser will work only inside the VM. If you try to access that local host on a machine outside, that will not work. Like this, it will not work in the Macintosh and the Windows. It will not. It is only in that machine where the local server is running in the rake preview mode. It actually starts a local server. As you can see here, it says starting rack. Rack is the server that runs on that box. So if you try to run that rack on that machine and try to access it from outside, it will not be able to load, not be able to connect to that machine directly unless you do some port magic or port mapping magic. It will not actually reach that location. So you will not see anything. We'll just verify that. I'm rake preview again and trying to open the same site in a local laptop. Nothing will open. Only within the browser. Here, this will work. If you now break that rake server, Control C, and go back to the web browser, even this browser will not work anymore. It will say unable to connect because the server is broken. The local server rake, the rake preview rack server. Now, on this side, we have our next step, which is to find your AWS API account credentials. So this is the analogous to username and password from Amazon Web Services that we want to grab. They give you a key pair, a different type of key pair, and that actually should worth a discussion. So here I'm going to start my white sheet of paper and get my pen and describe the three different types of key pairs. One that you already know, ID_RSA and ID_RSA.pub. You know this already, you have used it. So this is useful for connecting with other machines. Connecting with machines. That's the primary usage of this key pair. The second type of key pair is connect with cloud provider. Provider as a company, not with one machine, but as the account. That's what we will be using. That's what we will asking this company AWS to generate a key pair for us. So it is going to be a pair, this and that. And those two things will be used for us to connect with the provider for the account that we have. So this is tied to your credit card. So keep it absolutely secure. If you lose these keys, somebody will steal your money. And don't call me because somebody will. If you manage to lose this key here, somebody will, I promise, I guarantee, within 10 minutes, you will start accumulating a bill of $2,000 per hour or even more if you manage this key and let it go in the public. So don't at all, do not share it. Every session, except the last one, did not happen, but almost every session, some of us in the group manages to let go of this this particular key pair, and they post it accidentally on GitHub, and in 10 minutes, they get hacked. The hacking basically happens through automated fashion. People will start machines on your account, start Bitcoin mining, and you will accumulate the bill, they will make the money. And then you have to be on the phone with Amazon explaining what happened. So don't lose the key. This is the critical thing, do not. This is tied to your money. Don't, even if you have a free account, you still have your credit card with them. You do not want to lose this key pair. That's what we will be generating right now. And a third key pair we'll also use of a different type, which is to use with a Chef server in a in a different type. So that's a different type of key that we will use later on. So that's a third type. Now we'll focus on this aspect right now. And back here. Oh, Chris, are you able to hear me? Chris was saying that he was not able to hear me properly. I hope you can hear me now. Well, I'm the Verizon guy. Can you hear me now? And so here, what I'm saying is you go to this location and read about how to generate access keys. But it's actually fairly simple. There's too much of written stuff here. You can just go to the My Account section. And in there, click on the name that you have here and look for security credentials. That's where you will find them. So here, security credentials. And in there, it is asking me these questions. So go to security credentials and say yes. Now in here, there are lots of, I want to focus on the third one from top, this one, access keys. That's what I want to get. And these keys are useful for our code that we want to run here and then send our pub bucket, the public folder we have here. I want to send this content over to a bucket. And so I want to provide this key pair from here to my software and then run a command to send stuff. That's what I intend to do, which means I need to generate a key pair, create a new access key. They don't call it a key pair, but it is a pair. There are two things, and those two things are, let's create one. By the way, I am showing it to you because I am okay showing this with you, but I will have to delete this key pair myself because this videos go public on the internet. So create a new access key. I'm going to show those access key like right here and copy these things. So there are two things I just copied. I'm going to take them here and paste it here. So you can see that the line number 2 and line number 4, there are two secrets if you can think of. This is your access key, line 2, and line 5 is the secret key. That's what we need to use in our exercise. So we got them, and I'm going to close this, but that key is now ready for usage. I can make it inactive or delete it later on, not right now. Don't have to immediately delete. If you make your key public or share it in a video recording, it's a good idea to delete. So I will be deleting that, not right now, but afterwards. But you don't have to delete your key like this because nobody's going to see your key unless you show it to them. With that understood, I just generated a key pair, which looks like this, and I'm going to use it now. How do I use it? I go back to that exercise we were working with, this one. That step is done. We go to the next step. And in here, I want to install a couple of things. What do I want to install? Another open source project. It's called S3CMD. S3 as in simple storage service. CMD as in the command to operate on an S3 bucket. And that is the command that I need to install. It's an open source project available on GitHub. I want to install it on my Linux box. So in that box, you can install S3CMD just like that. And so you need to provide a password. The password is Cloud Genius. So it is going to install S3CMD, and we will have the tool ready. This tool is useful for us to interoperate with that command on the command line with that bucket infrastructure, with the S3 service, S3CMD, S3 command. So now we have to configure that command. So S3CMD is loaded. So now it is installed. I want to now configure S3CMD. How do I configure? I just say -- configure. And now I'm going to configure. And so it is asking me, hey, what's your access key? So I have it here. I'm going to give it the access key, line number 2, copy, take it here and paste. Next, it says, what is your secret key? So I said, okay, here's my secret key. So I take that line, copy, and bring it here and paste. So it has taken my access key and my secret key. Good. And then it says, encryption is used to protect your files as they travel from here to there. I don't really need to encrypt because this is going to be a public website. What's the point of encrypting? It's going to be publicly visible either way at the end of the day. So there's nothing to encrypt. So I am deciding against encryption. I'm going to say no encryption password. It says, okay, I want to run your GPG software program. If you have it for encryption for your authentication of signature, I don't need to use that either. So I'm going to skip. Do you want to use HTTPS protocol as you transport your bucket to the cloud, to the S3 bucket? I said, no, I don't worry about these things. So I'm going to say no. And do you have a proxy server from your location to the cloud outside? No, I don't. So I skip and says, okay, I got the key, the access key, the secret key, the encryption is not being used, HTTPS not used, and everything else looks like this. Do you want me to test it? So I said, yeah, go ahead and test. So it says, okay, I'm going to test the connection. It says, yeah, everything works fine. It says, your access key and secret key worked fine. Okay, and I now know that the keys are working, which means I want to save the configuration. And so I'm going to save the setting, and I say yes. So it saves. It saves it in this file here, S3CFG, S3 configuration file. That's where it stores the credentials and everything else. So now my command S3CMD is functional, and here is how the the steps written down here for us, but we'll just move forward. I just did that, by the way. So now I want to create a bucket. The bucket I want to create, I think I might already have that bucket. So I'm going to, first of all, get that bucket name is called your bucket name here. That's the name of my bucket. So what I will do is go to my account in the S3 section right here. And look, if I have a bucket called your bucket name here, apparently I do. So there is a bucket called your bucket name here. And this is from a previous exercise. So I'm just going to delete all of those things. And the whole bucket is empty. Now I will destroy the bucket because I want to make room for this next exercise. So your bucket name here, this bucket needs to get deleted. So I will say bucket delete. Where's the delete bucket? There. S3, I want to delete the bucket. Okay, I click on, where's the delete bucket thing? Over here, I click on the name and then management. They have modified the user interface is changing ever all the time, apparently. So they keep moving stuff around. But the idea is I'm trying to delete the bucket, but I don't care. I'll just leave it running. And this is how you generate a new bucket by running that command to say create bucket. So there is this command called S3CMD MB, which is make bucket. MB is create. So S3CMD make bucket. And here you can create a bucket called S3:// whatever you like. And that's the bucket. So that's how you create a bucket on the command line. You don't have to visit the browser and all that. It just creates. So you can just see it, how it creates. Here we go. I just created a random bucket like that. It got created, and I can check it out. Right here, it should show up. If I refresh the page, that should show up. This random thing, JNK, whatever. And there it is. It showed up. Now here should be a way to delete that bucket, but I'll delete it later on. That's how I create a bucket on the command line. There should be an easy way to delete bucket, pretty much like this. It should be a remove bucket, if I remember right, and say, yeah, bucket removed, as simple as that. So I was able to remove the bucket, create a bucket pretty much on the command line without having to worry about the website. So now I have this bucket already. It's called your bucket name here. So I will remove that bucket pretty much like this. Your bucket name here. So it's gone. And I will now create a bucket by the same name. So you are for sure know that it's an empty bucket. Now I removed it, I created it. Now I have an empty bucket. I am in the Octopress folder already. And what I need to do is take my content from the public folder and send it to the bucket. So it goes like this. Pretty much like this. It says S3CMD, synchronize the contents. I think it's going to be too fast for me to read. So I'm going to let it run, and in the window here, paste. So what's going on here is copy my access control lists, delete anything that is removed from here locally, delete it from that remote location, and copy line number 7 to line number 9. Synchronize. Synchronize whatever I have. Synchronize is the command, subcommand. Whatever is in public, you copy it to line number 11. Delete whatever is removed. And access control, make it openly readable by everybody, public access. And synchronize whatever I have in my public folder with the bucket. That's what this command is doing, and it might have finished by now. Yeah, it did finish. What does that translate to? It means we have shifted or copied the entire content of our public folder generated site from this location and forklifted it and put that in the bucket, literally. And we have done that, and I will now go to the next step. So now what we have is we have to convert that bucket into a static site, WS. WS create is the command for that, which is to convert that bucket into a site. What does that translate to? Is I will show you in the web browser as well, but on the command line, it looks like this. Take my bucket and create a website out of it. What does this do? It basically comes back, says, yeah, we created a website configuration for you. So it's basically on the Amazon end, there is a place for us to go here and by the way, all the content showed up, right? All this content we just pushed is showed up there. And we have to go to properties, and static website hosting and bucket hosting is enabled. This is what we did on the command. This WS create command is exactly enables this bucket hosting, static website hosting function. So it is now enabled. What does that translate to? It means we can now click on this link. As simple as that. And all of us can click on it. So we'll go to Slack chat, paste it in our, there we go. I think we have a blog running already now. And so on that blog, you should be able to see, it looks like this. Pretty much the same thing what we created here, showed up there in a website form. And now we have the first post, second post, first post again, third post, archives, blog, front page, everything. All the links are connected, JavaScript working, CSS showing up, colors showing, some theme showing, and our writing shows up. Like, hello, everyone. This is second hello. And third, how are you doing? Those things showed up. We get to write whatever we want to write. And all we now do is run the synchronize command again. So if, for example, I am going to change the code a little bit. I will go to my posts that I created, and my first post, hello everyone, in there. What I want to be able to do is add a picture. So how do you add a picture in this command line? Like this. By the way, this is something that you don't have to remember, and I'm going to give you a cheat sheet for that. This thing that I'm writing is kind of sort of like English, but only very minimal in code, and that is called Markdown. Markdown is a way of writing, pretty much like English, except there is some short codes that makes it easy to write. And I will give you a demonstration as to what this Markdown business is, that you will find it absolutely helpful. The Cloud Genius site and all these instructions are written in Markdown. This styling of writing is all Markdown based. You will see an example quickly here in Gmail. I will now configure a short Gmail and send it to somebody, but I want you to see that is to compose. And here I'm going to say to somebody, and then in the subject line, I'll say some subject. But more importantly, I'm going to write some Markdown. What is that? I'm going to begin with a big title. This is the title. and then a subtitle. This is subtitle, and this is just plain text. How are you doing? And then a bullet point. First bullet and second. Now, this is not interesting enough quite yet, but let us make it really interesting. So what do? I convert this writing that I wrote and convert into good looking HTML. How do I do that? Click. How did that happen? That is Markdown magic. And so click again, goes again. Click again, Markdown. Click and click. This Markdown is a beautiful open source tool available at a place called Markdown here. And that's this place. Your email is about to get awesome. And here you can get Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Thunderbird. There's an add-on for Markdown. It helps you write efficiently. And what I am really writing is simple Markdown syntax that makes it look like a properly formatted HTML mail. But it is so simple to write. I have a toolbar, click and click, click and click. You can see that this first header tag with a single hashtag is what I'm really writing. This is the title. This is the H3 level subtitle. How are you doing is a plain text, and first bullet, second bullet, and like that. So now there's a Markdown cheat sheet. How do you write down Markdown cheat sheet? So there should be a feature somewhere here. And there are lots of things you can do: colorize, coding, writing, including pictures. And so we'll go Markdown cheat sheet. And there it is. So we'll find out how it is. It's a PDF file, and you can include audio and video as well in that same way of writing. So let's begin with a simple example of a picture. So how do you write pictures? Where's the picture example? There, images. So here is how you write an image. So I will go to my hello everyone thing and post whatever I have here and paste. So it's an alt text. Alt text is alternative text to help blind people or other people with disability understand what that picture is. So this is logo. And then part to that logo is the URL where the image is actually stored. So I'll paste that location. It will be a website where I have the Cloud Genius logo sitting. And then optional title. And so the title is, this is Cloud Genius logo. So that's my simple Markdown that I just added. If you take that Markdown and go to your Gmail that I was messing around with and put that in right here. Oops. Yeah, where did it go? Yeah, I need to paste it like this and then toggle. See that logo comes up. Automatically image embedded. And then toggle again and goes again and again and again. I think you get the picture. So that's how Markdown is useful, and that's what I just wrote here in that little blog post. I'm going to save it, close it. Sorry, save it and close it, and then generate one more time. How do I generate? Rake, generate new code, and I generated new code. It is generating right now. And it will drop that code in this location, the same public folder again. It will modify the code to make it run exactly how I want. And I can now send, or rather synchronize my public folder content with my bucket and delete whatever was removed from the public. It will be deleted from the remote bucket. And whatever is created here will be added on to there. It will synchronize. So that's what I intend to do. So I just said, do it. It is going to send only 3 things. As you can see, earlier step we saw multiple things going like 32. Right now it's only 3 things. Index.html got updated, and a specific post HTML updated, Atom XML updated, and now we have synchronized, which means this site with not the Gmail. So I'm going to discard the Gmail thing. So leave the page and refresh this site, which is what we are dealing with. Refresh, and go to the first post, and there we already see the picture. So that's how easy it becomes to write something that you want in plain text, pretty much like what I wrote, not in the public folder, but in simple HTML-like markdown style, pretty much like English. So this portion, line number 10, is kind of clumsy, but others are not. You can make it bold, or rather header number 1, and you can say header number 4, H4 header. 4 or 5, how many are there? 4. This is H4, or rather, and this I can clarify that this is H1. And here are some bullets. Like that you can write as you feel like. If you have a piece of code you want to publish, you can again do triple backticks and more backticks. This is a code snippet, and you can grab from GitHub a sample piece of code somewhere and drop it in there, easy. So here is Kubernetes software. We'll grab the Kubernetes example of a service file, and here is the service that I want to grab. So that service definition I just grabbed, put that in the bucket, put that in the backtick location, and then save and close. Then I'm going to generate one more time to generate new code, and then send my changes to the bucket with a synchronize command like this, and then I'm done. And so here I update and refresh my post, and what do I see? I see the code, and I see those bullets, and then H4 and H1 tag and H4 tag and the picture and bullets, and all of that shows up. Simple. So that is how you construct static sites. Now, some of the technology behind the scenes. So this bucket idea, as we saw, and companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, all of these guys claim that their services are highly, highly available and very, very highly durable. I mean, it is kind of mind-blowing to think about what claims that they make. And so let's go see some of those claims. For example, if you go and read about what Amazon is claiming, how highly durable, and don't confuse between what a word durable is from the word available. Availability and durability are two different things, and I think you understand. But let's go see S3, durability claim. So how durable do they claim, these guys? So here is click. And let's go see protection. And here is the durability claim. This is their official website. And they are claiming that Amazon S3 is designed to achieve, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11 nines of durability. That is mind-blowing. And that is the kind of high level of durability of your data that you have in a bucket. And you pay how much for that bucket, by the way? AWS S3 pricing. Let's go see the pricing part. You pay for a bucket and some storage. The pricing is free for you, and free for at least for the first year. But for first terabyte, it is standard price of not 23 cents, it's 2.3 cents. 2.3 cents per GB. GB, gigabyte, lots of storage. How much storage we are consuming right now in the exercise? Small, tiny, kilobytes. This is gigabytes, and you pay 2.3 cents on a standard usage. And that's for the first terabyte. If you have more data, it's even cheaper, 2.2 cents, and even cheaper, 2.1 cent. So the pricing is really, really, really cheap. On the other hand, durability is really, really, really obnoxiously high. I mean, it is mind-blowingly high number to claim like that. On the availability side, the numbers are pretty darn good also. But what does this really mean? This 11.9 durability means there is a very, very minuscule chance of one of the files getting deleted. A durability basically means that you will have the file no matter what. It may not be accessible, it may not be available, but it is going to be there, durable. Now, availability numbers are slightly smaller than this kind of a 11.9. They are probably S3 availability, S3 availability number. Let's see how much it is. The claim is for availability numbers. Do they give a number? I don't know if they give a number or not, but yeah, 99.99. There it is. In Wikipedia, you can see that the claim for durability is 11 nines, and for availability is 99.99 over a given year. That's extremely high. You know, if you think about how much of a downtime you might see in a year, this is, you know, probably some minutes, maybe not even minutes. Let's calculate that. So calculate 365 days, or rather I should say that number of availability. So you have a downtime of say 100 minus 0.9999. So that's the downtime. Oops, what did I do? Cancel. 1 minus 0.9999. So that's the that downtime indicator. Now if you multiply this by 365 days, so these many days you will have downtime. You multiply that by hour, so you have this many hours of downtime. And if you multiply that by 60, you have 52 minutes of roughly downtime a year. So pretty good in terms of availability claims that they have. Durability claims are even better. I mean, 11 nines. So, and pricing, cheap. I mean, I cannot describe how cheap it is. You saw the numbers. So with that kind of an infrastructure behind you, of durable infrastructure that is also highly available, and more importantly, there is no server for you to manage. You just get a storage bucket and you put your objects in there and you're done. You can convert that bucket into a site and use it. And it doesn't have to be done with it. You can always keep changing and pushing new content by synchronizing, like I just showed you. You can keep your site up to date by writing in simple markdown, generating new content, and synchronize. Write again and synchronize. And you can even automate these steps, like, you know, the synchronization step. You can look at a step in which all you do is really edit that markdown in here. This file, for example, or maybe this file. And it will look for file system changes as you save something. So I write something here and I save. It should look for my saves and automatically regenerate code. How do you do that? There is a command for that. I think it is called rake watch. Rake watch is the command which will look for changes in whatever I am changing in the file system on the Atom editor. So this is running on the back end. So I'll leave it running. This watch is running, which is watching for changes in the file system. And on this page, you will see I'm leaving the site open locally. So I'm going to update it. It should show us something. Rake watch, please show me something. Are you not showing anything? Or maybe rake watch is not the command. It is. Is it rake preview or what? Let me read somewhere. I think I must have forgotten. What is the command for continuous rake? Okay, it is not written down here apparently, but there is a way. I'll find out and tell you how do you watch for file system changes in an editor like this, like the Atom editor. And all you do is just write in Markdown and save. The back-end program will detect file system changes, and anytime you see a change, it will generate new code, put in the public bucket, and run a synchronize that will push your changes to the bucket. It goes live. As you edit here, the world will see. That's how you can automate. And now, on the exercise I would like you to do, I would like you to create your own site in a bucket and map your domain name to that. How do you do that? Put a CNAME, canonical name. So for example, you have this name that I got. You saw that name showing up something like here. This is the name I got from my bucket. So I need to create a CNAME for www CNAME this. That's what I really want to do for my domain. So that what happens is when people visit www.yourdomain.whatever that you have, it will show whatever this thing says, line number 4. That's the kind of record you want to establish after your site is up and running. And then it will map it and expose it to the world outside. And you, in a team that is creating content and want to expose it to an audience, it's a very efficient way of creating and disseminating content without hassle. All you do is write Markdown, like you saw the cheat sheet. It's very simple, like one page of cheat of writing. Somewhat tricky things are with images, as you saw. The image writing portion can be a little tricky, but apart from that, most of it is very straightforward. And so that was the Markdown post. I think I saw you. The first Markdown post actually has that. I think I changed something, did I? I think so. So let me go modify that. So don't say changes. And I will, what I want to do is define that homework for the next time. So the homework is we have to create www.whatever-you-have and map it to your bucket containing a generated site, and paste that link in your Slack chat. Now, with that having said, I would like to understand if I explained the question, the homework assignment correctly. That's what I would like to ask you. Now that you have your MX records working, put a CNAME in there, and then you have your own www, not 4 Ws, but 3. And here you have I ride a Harley.com, and then it shows your bucket containing a generated site with your Road King. Something like that. That's the concept, right? So the question I have for you is, are there any questions on the homework itself? Let me know. Are there any questions on S3, the concept of objects and buckets, and how do we use it? How do we actually put that to practice? Questions are welcome. We will extend this idea further in our next session when we do that, which will expand into content delivery networks. And so that is something that I want to talk about next time. But for right now, I think this is good. You have your MX records working, which means your mail transport is happening. Your SPF and DKIM should be working. Your DMARC record should also be put in place. And go to that website called dmarkian.com and create an account. It's all free, and they let you manage your domain properly. And so that's what I think most of you have done this part already. Move on to the next idea of building a site for yourself, as simply as this, without spending money, because at least for the first year, you're not even paying 1 cent. Later on, you might pay 1 cent. If you decide to keep your domain or you just destroy it, that's fine. So that's what I had for today. Questions are welcome. How do you like the Taj Mahal?
I've got a question.
Yes.
Earlier, the issue of managing SSH keys for the various instances on the cloud services. Do you have
you say manage
suggestion
with
for
the
utilities
key,
to do that,
or
do you usually write your own?
Can you please say again? Or maybe type it in Slack chat. Yeah, I did not get your question.
Oh, looks like my audio is cool.
Brian, I think Brian is coming back online. Brian, you had a question. Is Brian still online? Not yet.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian, go ahead and ask your question. If you want, you can type in chat or speak, either way.
You said something earlier about managing the SSH keys for the virtual machine instances that you create. What do you usually use to do that?
Just write scripts, simple scripts to basically, this is how I'll do it. I'll show you an example. What I'll do is, let me project. So projecting my screen. It's very simple. It's nothing complex there, but let me just show you. So simple idea. You have a key pair, and this public key is with the machine. So what you do now after 3 months or so, or sometimes after some time period, is you generate another key pair. And then put this public key in place next. So after 3 months, or after some time, you generate this, and then you put public in the machine. In addition to what you already have, test the new key and feel happy. And after you feel happy, you delete the old key.
Okay.
That's the script you write, and you run it in a cron job.
But when you generate a new instance through like the S3 command tool.
So S3 command tool generates a bucket, and there is no key involved. These keys do not come into play. The key that you need are the keys of this type, which are connected to the cloud company, your account with the company. This key is used for connecting with your Amazon account, not a machine, not a bucket, but it's account-wide access. It is very powerful. You can do like whatever you want because it's your credit card, right? So they let you do whatever you feel like. And so that is something that you need to understand, that these keys are dangerous.
Yep.
And by the way, having said, let me go and delete that key right now, because it is actually dangerous. It is scary. But just saying that you should never share your key pair, like that key pair. Right? Absolutely never, ever share that key pair and delete, which means my S3 CMD stops working right now because it has no way to connect. It has no way to synchronize. It lost its authority to connect. So it cannot create a bucket, cannot delete a bucket, can do nothing. If I attempt that, it will fail. These keys are pointless now. I deleted them. Now back here, I should be able to go back to the command line and say attempt to S3 CMD synchronize, and it will say invalid key right there because my key is broken. So access denied, 403, key is bad. The key you provided does not exist in our records. Of course, did not. Because I deleted it. So it's gone. That's this key. It's account wide. The key that we rotate are the ones that you create yourself with the command SSH key gen.
Yeah, my question was actually about those. When you were to generate not a new bucket, but a new Elastic Compute instance, and you assign your keys to it right away.
Mm-hmm.
Do you just have a script that you run on the instances when you create them that copies your public key from your workstation to the new instance?
So there are better ways to handle this, and one of them is to not run script directly on those machines, but instead use tools like Ansible or Chef or others to remotely orchestrate this game. This game I'm written down here on this sheet, which is to generate and then test and then feel happy. Those are the critical steps. Right? This is step number 1. So 1, generate the key pair. The second step is to test the new key. The third important step is to feel happy about it. And then the fourth one is to delete the old key. So these steps should be automated. And no, you're not running scripts directly connected on the EC2 instance or the Vultr machine or any of that. But instead, you orchestrate this remotely sitting in your office through automation tools like Ansible or Puppet or Chef, or there are lots of them. So you use those tools as opposed to mucking around manually like I have been doing up until now. Like, I go to the machine directly, mess with it. That's a bad way to do things, but that's how you begin, right? You need to understand what's going on, and then we will switch over to more complex things as we go along. And you will have those things, you'll have the opportunity to play with way more complex things. You can see some of that. I don't know if I have, hold on, let me check if I have opened up complete access for you. Let me just quickly check. So right now we are experimenting, I think, with, where are we? We are experimenting with the cloud technologies segment. That's what we are running through right now. The thing I just described is the DevOps segment, which is nerdy to some extent. It has lots of things I just described: automation tools, Ansible and Chef, and all those things. So there are exercises here that you can actually read ahead of time. And what I will do is enable access for you, so you can see. I have no problem giving you access. You signed up, and I will open up access. So you can read ahead. I mean, totally, whatever I have, I will. This is not something that, this is not the training itself. I use it as a reference. So I'll suddenly refer to this and do something here. I'll change topics. But basically, I have my agenda in my mind, and I drive that agenda. I've been running this just without any playbook or any PowerPoint slide for the last so many years. So I have my agenda in my head. I will give it to you if you like. This written down material, there's a ton of it, and I keep adding to it, is not exactly how I follow, but it's there as a reference. So we can use it, and you can read it as well. I will be opening up access for all of you after the session, and I'll let you know that it's done on Slack chat. You can read ahead. And I encourage reading ahead. If you have time, you should. There are also video recordings for some of you who may or may not know. There are video recordings for DevOps and for architecture for previous sessions, from our previous sessions, as in the one in spring, the one in winter. Those are available already. You can watch them. They are here for you. If you want to watch, if you have free time, like all of you do, like ample free time, you should watch these videos. I'm just kidding. You can. You don't have to, but you can. There are all these videos available to you here from the past several sessions. We have been recording, I think, since 2015. So lots of videos are stored, available. If you're feeling really bored and you want to listen to me yap, this is the place to go. Okay, more questions. And by the way, one thing I think somebody was suggesting that, many of us are in our area, in the Seattle area. And I think it'd be a good idea to get together at some point. So that's what I'm suggesting, is that we meet face to face, because I know many of you, I have met some of you face to face, but not all of you. So we should get together is what I'm suggesting. So you come up with an idea about a place, a time, a date, an evening. Just don't select Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But apart from that, anything is okay. So I'll let you guys pick and choose. Think in that direction, and let's chat on Slack and figure out a place, time, date. In the past, people have gone to, let me show you a couple of examples of where we have done in the past. So we usually go out for dinner. We eat and talk. That's what most people apparently like, eat and talk. So where is that? There was a picture here somewhere, weblog. You will probably recognize some of these guys. Okay. Where is the picture? No. Next. Somewhere. Oh man, I think I have lost the picture or what? But there's a picture of us, people in the boot camp getting together and eating. That's the picture. I mean, I can find it for you, but.
Well, I like that idea.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, there we go. You know some of these guys? Do you? Who do you know? I bet Brian knows Alex.
I recognize Nilesh.
Yeah, how do you know that I know Alex?
Because you seem to be friends with him. Your name suggestion came up in Facebook saying, do you know Brian? You want to friend with Brian? And I said, Facebook is getting offensive these days. Like, they just look up my inbox and see who I'm emailing, and they want me to be friends with them. So that's okay. But I'm not inflicting myself on you to become my Facebook friend. But that's how I found out that you know this guy. So since I emailed you, Facebook decided that I know you. And of course, I want to know you, but that's how I know that you are friends with him.
Of course, social media. But yeah, we climb mountains together.
I understand. And so, yeah, I love that idea. I go hiking every other day in the morning. And you probably know some of the other guys. There are a couple of, every time we go, we take a picture and we make it. You know these guys, do you? Some of these guys, maybe?
Wow, where's that?
This is Din Tai Fung.
Oh,
In-
Helen Koger. I recognize Helen Koger.
Okay.
And Rebecca, is that Rebecca?
Yes, that's Rebecca with a victory sign.
Yeah.
And some of these are the Microsoft employees. These are he's a veteran. Another Microsoft employee. Yeah, but I think we should do that. We should get together. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, let's stop recording for right now. And I will discuss CloudFront, which is a content delivery network. And there are a bunch of other services like that, which helps us in extending global reach for our content. We can create sites and services that go out globally at really cents, or rather I should say pennies, or whatever the language is, whatever the right word is, but really very, very cost-effective way of reaching out global audiences at a high performance. And that is what adding another layer globally available. I'll describe more about it next time. Content delivery networks is what I want to begin discussing. And we'll also go into the idea of other types of storage, like I discussed file storage, as opposed to object storage. We'll go into file system storage also, use some examples, use some exercises. And archival storage, another type of storage service. So we use that. There are other types of things that some companies provide, some others don't. So we'll describe and understand what those things are. How do we put that to use? And then we will switch over to the most complex of the three things: compute, storage, and network. The third one is kind of clumsy, kludgy, hard to understand. And that's why I have gone ahead and created a set of simple videos for you, which I think you should watch ahead of time. I'm going to tell you where it is. I'm going to paste a link for you in Slack chat so that you have it ready. But remember to watch it ahead of time. It will help. It may not make sense when you're first watching, but let me find a link and give it to you. So with that, I want to make sure that I pause the recording. Otherwise, the recording becomes long for no reason. So stopping to record now. Thank you.